Oh, right, okay. Hey, Gemma,
Yes.
what Coronation Street good this week?
Oh, it's pretty exciting, wasn't it?
I loved it this week. I'm so excited. I'm so happy.
Oh,
but
glad.
following my kind of reaction to last week's Coronation Street, when everyone else seemed to love it, by the way, and I was like, it was okay. I mean, it wasn't brilliant. I'm now getting ready to record a street talk about a set of episodes I was, feeling a lot happier with how they turned out and how everything mixed up together as well. In fact, I was kind of mixed emotions about this because there was really, if you boil it down, two stories this week, wasn't there? The Ray stuff and the not Ray stuff, and the not Ray stuff being
You can boil
Sean and
everything
Gemma
down.
and Chesney and
You
everything.
can boil everything down every week to all about so-and-so character or not about so-and-so character. Perhaps you should be more specific.
Everything else that happened that wasn't related to the pyramid scheme, I suppose the Michael as well, but that was hardly anything. The Michael story was all touched upon in some way by Ray. Even, the Yasmin and Elaine stuff started off as a bit of a spin-off from her having to move house because of Ray, selling the house, buying the house off of her. It's not often that happens, is it? That one character or story can take over a whole week. But, when it does, it can make things a little bit difficult for me in the note-taking department, as we shall see in a minute. But it makes it feel a lot more rounded and real and deep, Did you...
Yes.
Well, how did... I realised that I've waffled on a lot of... Did you feel the same? Did you like the fact that it was so Ray heavy?
I really enjoyed this this week. I thought there's a lot of exciting stuff on there with Ray, and he's still not over. Where is he?
Don't know.
Shall we talk about?
We'll do the stories. Like I was saying, it's all mixed up because there was so much Ray. So what we're going to do is talk. I've split Monday down the middle. So Monday I've got a segment about everyone's moving house because of Ray. Then I'm going to talk about Faye wants to confess because she hit Adam, thinking it was Ray. And then we'll talk about Wednesdays, both of those stories together, and then Fridays, both of those stories together. Although, to be fair, there wasn't anything particularly Faye-ish about today's episodes. So that's going to be a whole big old section first. Then we'll do the telesales and marketing, and then we'll do the Babes in Grace just towards the end. So I guess we'll just swap over every now and then. For Mondays, would you want to talk about the housing stuff or the Faye stuff? What would you rather?
Housing.
You do the housing. So what's gone on with Ray's development?
Can I just say how triggered I am about all this house stuff? It's in current Corrie. I'm sure there's been quite a few stories in old Corrie about people moving, and I swear there were never big stories about moving house. Like, for years and years and years, people just casually move in and out of people's houses. Nobody made a big deal about buying a house or moving house. But we've seen lots of stories in old Corrie about moving house. Then we've got this stuff, and also we're watching The Office because they put it onto Netflix in the UK, and Michael Scott's buying a condo. Yeah. And he started having a panic attack when he realised that he wasn't going to be finished with his mortgage in 10 years, and I can relate to that quite hard. So let's talk about Ray and his plan.
Well, he was left with a bit of a cliffhanger at the end of last week, wasn't he? That's 2 Fridays in a row that's left with a cliffhanger of, where's Ray?
He got bundled into a van, and he's been cruising around the streets all weekend. With Gay Mick, the gangster.
Who'd have thought we'd see him again?
He gets a shout out in our bonus episode.
He does. We have already recorded our bonus episode for this week, and we do get to we talk a little bit more in depth about Ray and his contribution to Coronation Street in the his contribution to Coronation Street in the past few months.
But we do talk about Ray as well. It looks like he owes Mick some money.
Yes.
Sad times. The Platts are parking the van.
Packing a van.
Parking the van up to pack it.
Sorry for the interruption.
They're going to move to the Dog and Gun estate.
Not the Paul Robeson estate.
Is that what it's actually called?
What? Is what was called.
In the show, is that what it's actually called?
What?
You just said Paul Robeson.
The Paul Robeson estate, yeah.
Can you please clarify if you're talking about the show or in real life?
They made a whole thing on Monday about the fact that it was called that, but everybody affectionately calls it the Dog and Gun Estate.
Because it's full of dogs and guns.
Yeah.
But actually it's because the pub's called the Dog and Gun. Yes. He has given up, David, on fighting this. He's just going to go with the flow. Ray tells Mick on the phone that he's transferred half of the money he owes, and this was triggering as well. All we've done this week is transfer money to people for no reason, and one of the worst and most galling things to pay for are transfer fees. What am I giving you the money? What do you mean? I'm going to charge you for my admin fees. 5 hours on Monday that was. My rate's quite high.
Tuesday we were doing that.
Was it Tuesday?
Yes.
I think it was...
Couldn't have fit it in on Monday with Coronation Street on.
That's true, actually. So... he's suffering from this beating, is Ray, that he's been given. Debbie comes in saying, we've got to exchange. We need the money for number 4 and number 6. Where is it? And he's like, what, Michael?
No, I was my sharp intake of breath. Was that my announcement? I have something to say. I did get a bit confused about the story on Monday because everybody owes everybody else money, and I'm confused about where they're up to, who's sold it, who hasn't sold it, who can't back out now.
It's really not confusing.
I got confused about this.
It wasn't. The thing is, David's already sold his house, so it doesn't matter.
Mm.
And you've got Yasmin and the Nazirs, and you've got
Sally and
Tim, and they're the people that are moving.
Yeah.
And other people seem to be part of a different phase, and it's too complicated to involve them anyway. So it's just really these 3 houses that we're concentrating on.
Mm.
And until they get the money, until the money gets transferred to the Nazirs and the Metcalfs, they're not going to go anywhere because then
they can still technically back out.
But you don't get your deposit.
No.
So he says, don't worry about it, it's all in hand. She's like, oh, something's up. So Ray arranges to meet, well, she actually, the council lady, wants to meet up with him in this hotel. She wants an update on the judicial review, and she says, I'm feeling a bit nervous about this bribe that I accepted. I'm going to double down. I'm going to make this twice as bad as it already is. I want £20,000 as a get out of jail fund. I don't think they let you use stolen money to get out of jail, but what do I know?
Is it more of a get out of going to jail, and I'm going to use it to do a classic Corrie emigration?
Yeah, I'm going to go to Spain. I hear it's where all the action is. He says, I haven't got it. And she says, well, I don't really care whether you've got it or not. I'll dob you in if you don't give it to me, and I'll say that you coerced me and threatened me. Oh dear, over a barrel there. Gail is sitting alone in an empty house posing for the hottest album of 2021.
That was a thing this week, wasn't it?
That was a meme.
That was a thing that I wish that I was able to jump on myself before somebody else did. But yeah, I did enjoy that scene with it was quite poignant.
It was a very striking image of her sort of like sitting on a box, but she was doing it. I know everyone said it looked like she was on the front of an emo music album cover, but to me she looked like Kermit the Frog sitting on a log. The way her little leg was crooked, one side and straight the other, like she just got plonked on there like a puppet.
I see what you mean. No, it was sad because we've never seen the house like that, and I think, Gail's been living there for 30 years now, and it's always been, the sofa's always been there, the chair to the side and everything, and then see it completely stripped. Even though we know they're not going anywhere, that house isn't going to get knocked down, it still was quite stark and like, ooh.
Or are they?
And it was probably like dead easy to do as well, wasn't it? Because these sets get put up and taken down whenever whenever they're needed or not needed.
I don't think the Platts gets taken.
I wonder whether the Platts is one that never does. But having been and
lot
look around the
are
sets,
more permanent than that.
It probably is. I mean, dead easy. It is just a case of
take
wheel a wall off, take a sofa off, and then you go.
I think you're saying that somebody that never had to remove items from a set.
Maybe.
I mean, the moving house, Michael, how difficult can it be? You just put things in boxes.
But it was quite poignant, as I say, and I did enjoy the Photoshop that was made of Gail posing for the album cover. Although I did make my own Photoshop of Gail this evening. You
combined 2 of the greatest memes that came out this week.
I did. This week's other meme of the week was Bernie Sanders appearing to be sitting down in various places.
Do you know where he was sitting originally?
Inauguration?
Yes.
Yeah. That was a news item that happened there, so it wasn't there. So I photoshopped Bernie to be sitting on top of Gail's box. That was quite hard because I had to remove
That
Gail
sounds
from
rude.
it. Anyway.
Right, so
Gail's
sad. She can't believe they're leaving. She tells Nick she's too old to be slumming it on a futon in the Dog and Gun estate. I don't know what her long-term plans are for life.
No.
She basically is homeless.
Clean
isn't
up
she?
after her sons until she drops.
And like simper after them and sort of beg for crumbs off their table.
Yeah.
I don't know what her job is currently. I know that she's like weaseled this cleaning job off of Nick.
Yeah, I don't... Did she have a job before that? I've lost track.
There's nothing wrong with being a cleaner, but I don't think it's compensated fairly for the amount of hard work that you do, and therefore I'm going to say it's not an appropriate job for a woman who really needs to start saving money up to move out of her child's house.
No, I think she's just a professional doormat, basically, isn't she, Gail? I'm surprised she's got time for doing part-time cleaning with that.
She's like, I don't know if I can, Nick. I've got to make sure see if David wants to wipe his feet on me.
Yeah.
So Nick's like, oh, all right, why don't you come and stay with me and Sam in Natasha's place? And she's like, brilliant. She kind of like dumps David like a sack of hot sick because she does not want to live on this estate, and I do not blame her at all. It sounds scary and horrible.
Well, not compared to, a swanky flat.
Well, also, I wouldn't want to sleep on a futon. She's right to say, oh, I'm too old to be sleeping on a futon. Gail, you should have thought that before you sold your house.
She also pointed out, I've fallen out with me mum. Because that's just over the fact that Audrey doesn't care that the houses are getting flattened, and she's gladly sold the salon.
I think that Gail, honestly, does have a long-term life plan, and it's wait for Audrey to die and inherit her cash. But I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon.
Audrey hasn't got any cash. We had a story about that a few years
Audrey?
ago. Well, yeah, all of Archie's money has gone in it.
Well, she's got a house though, hasn't she?
Oh yeah, she has. That Grasmere
Drive
Drive cash.
Grasmere Drive to move in there.
She's
be careful of the damp.
Gail's like the Prince Charles of Coronation Street, isn't she?
Just waiting. One day my time will come. Okay, so so Nick's like, okay, fine.
Wet lettuce, both of them.
Oh, don't be mean about Prince Charles, our future king. Roy tells Abby there is no update on the judicial review and it could take months. And he says, I've got to remortgage the cafe so that I can get the money to go ahead with this. But don't worry, I'm not giving up.
It's feeling to me like the judicial review
it feels like
maybe isn't really that important.
Yeah. It's like, what? No, this is an extra bit of the story that doesn't need to be here.
Yeah.
The
way that everything's going now, it's like, well, it doesn't matter one way or another whether he gets the judicial review.
It doesn't really... Yeah, I mean, on the one hand, you've got Roy, who doesn't really seem to understand he's in a soap and he's trying to actually do things by the book. And the other hand, you've got Abby and Ray running up and down Ginnells, like, bribing and drugging one another. Yeah. I don't think Roy's remortgage on the cafe
Which one's going to make the front cover of the soap magazines this week?
A picture of Roy on the front of Soap Weekly with a sad face, like, remortgage the cafe? Roy's shock financial twist. Will he? And then you open it and it's like, no, he won't. And the other big question of the week is, will he ever restock cream horns?
Oh, yeah. Oh, God, that's Sean. Can't remember the last time I had a horn. Ellen Taylor, come on.
Oh, dear.
Don't need this.
David can't believe Gail's ditching him. He has got quite used to the idea of having her around. And also, he just wants a free babysitter. And she's like, well, it's tough because I'm not moving to that dump. Debbie finds out that Ray has used the money that she thought was going to be used to buy the houses to give as bribes to everybody, basically.
Well, he's paying off Nick and he's bribing council lady.
And he says, look, I haven't told you about the debt collectors and the council bribe. And she's like, what are you doing, you idiot? All the stuff that we've had to go through to get here. And he says, don't worry, I'm not giving up. It'll all be fine. Debbie is really stupid. Just got to get on record and say that.
Pourquoi?
Well, this is the sunk cost fallacy whereby she's worrying about the fact she's going to lose all of this money.
Yeah.
But that's motivating her to involve herself in illegal activities that could actually end up with her losing more than just,
You can tell she's been wanting to kind of get out of it all week, but knowing that she can't really. She's in too deep.
Yeah.
And also, she's probably intimidated by Ray.
Yeah, well, I don't know if that she is, actually. I don't think so. She talks to him like she's not scared of him.
She does. You're right, actually. A lot of the time she does. Although when it came down to it in tonight's episode, when I suppose even then she did call the ambulance, didn't she?
I honestly think that Debbie does us proud as women. She's not scared of him, even though he's physically imposing and scary. She's not at all intimidated by him. She is just irritated and is worrying about her money, which, you know, if that's her life savings.
Yeah. I mean, Ray had already kind of met his match with Abby, hadn't he? And I think now that Debbie is, you know, on the good side, as it were, with Debbie and Abby versus Ray,
he's finished.
I think, his days are numbered.
Miles the accountant comes round and hears Ray on the phone panicking, speaks to Debbie, and they're like, oh God, how bad is this? And Ray's sort of trying to pretend that it's not as bad as everyone's making out and been trying to be mysterious, I guess. And then we have Ryan appears to help. I mean, Ollie's not with him for his brains, so he might as well
just playing around with the lift on the back of the lorry.
Use his brawn and load the things onto the van. See, this is like the whole thing of watching this is just me going, gosh, the removal fees for that van, they're gonna have to pay for another day to you know what I mean? Like all of these things are like, oh dear, I wonder if they're gonna have to pay another one of those telegram fees that the solicitors try to extort out
This
of
is
you.
like when all the nurses and doctors and police officers and everything watch Coronation Street. They must be thinking this all the time because they live it.
Oh, they haven't filled out a 316 form for the stop and search there. That's gonna be thrown out of court. Right, so
this is just Yasmin moving out, isn't it?
Yeah.
She's
So
saying,
he's like, oh, maybe we won't have to move out. And Yasmin says, look, you know what? Maybe I should, because this place reminds me of Jeff. And then they find out that the funds haven't cleared. So she goes and tells David the move's off, but of course it doesn't really make much difference to them because they've they have to leave anyway.
Yeah.
Ray finishes up on the phone and says, oh, don't worry about it. I've sorted it out. We've got 10 days. It will be fine. And Debbie's like,
She just wants it all signed and sealed, doesn't she?
Yeah.
She's so anxious.
David says, why do I have to move if everyone else isn't? And they're like, well, because you sold your house. So, yes, you do have to move. Although, honestly, I can't see why Ray, being, as he is, a bit of a penny-pinching businessman, would pay for David to rent a house somewhere when there is no reason. It seems like a waste of money.
Well, no, I think it was just as part of the contract that he would do that.
As part of the contract,
Sneaky
he has
bit.
to provide David with alternative accommodation.
Yeah. And
For
David,
what purpose now?
what do you
see
mean?
my point? David doesn't need to vacate the premises, does he? Because the other people haven't moved either.
Yeah.
So he might as well stay there and Ray can save his rent money. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like Ray. Moving house
Stop
is a
picking
series.
holes.
Moving house is a series of paying for things that you don't actually really want or need. Is all I'm going to say. So, Ray comes into speed dial, finds Yasmin and everybody says, get a wiggle on, get out. Completion's going to happen tomorrow.
Oh, this is great, this bit. This is Yasmin telling him to jog on, wasn't it?
Yeah, she says, I don't care. Jog on.
As my granddaughter would say, jog on! And Ray kind of leaves with his tail
Jogs
between
off.
his legs. But the smile that slowly
Everyone's like,
creeps
"Yay!"
onto Yasmin's face, and she's just so proud of it. It's like, oh, I did it! I told him to jog on, didn't I? I
Nalia's
loved
like,
that.
actually-
Yes. What a zinger, Yasmin.
Actually, Gran, it's do one.
That's what we say around here.
David goes and tells Gail things have been delayed, but they still have to move, and they're like, oh, sad. Then we get a bit that never gets addressed with Yasmin. She's got all these unpaid bills and, and like overdue things, which must have been a legacy from Jeff. And she says, I'm proud of myself for standing up to Ray. I'm not going to let Jeff ruin my life from beyond the grave. I'm staying here.
Yes. So, house-wise, things are looking a bit dodgy for Ray by the end of Monday's episode, and the other half of his story with Faye also not going too well either for him. So, beginning of the Monday's episode starts with the Met Cart all getting ready to get moved. Sally wants to shampoo the carpets before the demolition. Which I found hilarious because she doesn't want to make a bad impression on the people that come to literally demolish the place. And this is when Tim floats the idea of, maybe we should go to Spain. Because as you remember last week, he decided that the way that Faye was going to evade justice this time was by them all doing a midnight flit to the continent.
I mean,
and she thinks it's a ludicrous idea, which it is.
It is stupid, but we are forgetting the fact that Claire Peacock is still at large in France.
That is true.
So it doesn't work.
It can work. I mean, 10 years on, she's still there. Yeah.
She's still on Le Lam.
Le Lam.
L'Agneau.
Oh, yes, it is L'Agneau. Yeah, très bien. So Tim is later still banging on about how awesome Spain is to Sally. Faye gets fed up with this and leaves the house because she's still just feeling guilty. She wants to confess, but thinks that everything's going to go wrong if she does, and everyone's telling her not to, so she doesn't know what to do. So she just runs away.
It was very easy for me to say that this is Tim being at his most himbo-ish and empty-headed, but it wouldn't really be fair to direct this criticism towards him because characters do this all the time. I just am so sick of this simple-minded, let's just do something completely drastic and irrational.
I'm kind of numb to it.
And it is one of the stupidest things that Corrie does. Like, let's just go to a foreign country. You can't. You just can't. You can't. Why on earth did they not say, let's go to Cornwall? Like, it would have been the same thing.
I just kind of roll my eyes and move on, I think, when characters suggest it now.
There's no, like, extradition treaty with Spain. It's like Spain where all of the notorious criminals go because they refuse to send people... I mean, you might as well go to Cornwall as Spain.
It's very... Yeah. No, yeah, I agree. It's silly. It also... It's supposed to be impactful when a character suggests it on screen as well, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's like, it's a cliffhanger. I think we should move to Spain. Dun, dun, dun.
I know, and the reaction from the audience should be like,
Spain,
oh my God, I can't believe they're contemplating such an incredible
must be
move.
serious if they're thinking of going to Spain.
I mean, you might as well have said, let's go to Mars for all the like... The
you're absolutely right. It's literally the same as that.
Yeah, okay.
As likely.
Why stop at Mars,
as impactful.
Tim? Why don't you blow yourself into the sun?
Anyway,
I'll pay for it.
He goes to see Maria first, and Faye's not there. He thinks he's trying to find Faye, but she's not over at Maria's flat. And they
I'll tell you what it probably
Spain
was,
as well.
Michael. It was probably subliminal messaging from Emma, who's been learning Spanish this whole time, and he probably overheard her, and just in his mind he sort of started going, I wonder why it is, I don't know what it is, but I really fancy going to Spain.
He tells Maria, I want to protect Faye, I don't care if people say it's a stupid idea, it's my dad as a dad to stop her owning up for what she did, basically. And it's all right that Faye's missing, because Officer Tinker is on the case and finds her, where else but Victoria Gardens, yeah. They really, if they haven't put CCTV up in Victoria Gardens, they really should, because that's the criminal den of Weatherfield, isn't it? So he says, look, he's friend zoned again, isn't he? He's like,
no, I hate this.
I know we're blowing our chances of being together. Could you just be friends? And she's like, go on then.
Then he says friend zoned again, which I hate. I thought everybody realised what a horrible, toxic term friend zoning is. It literally means, I wanted to shag you, but I guess I'll just be your friend instead.
I'll just pine after you forever in a bit of a creepy way.
Like, no, I hate the term friend zone.
She doesn't pick up on his hint, though, really, does she? I still think that there's potential for those two in the future.
So basically,
when he says, out of the police,
when they sort of agree to be friends, and he says, "Oh, friend zone again," what he actually means is, so no chance of a shag. Just checking, just asking.
Basically, because he still hasn't, has he? He tells her, he catches her up with all the latest news from the Tinker HQ, including he's completed his first Rubik's cube, and she's like, "Oh yeah, well, I'll top that. I tried to kill.
No.
I was nearly raped by Ray. I slept with him. Also, it was me what bashed Adam over the head." And
then Craig says, "Hey, do you want to know some secrets about the police? Come here. I'll just tell you." And then starts spilling all the secrets about everybody who's in jail at the moment and what they did and where the evidence is.
Yeah, see, if I was Faye, I wouldn't have told Craig this, because even though he's not, he didn't go reporting her to his superiors, he very well could have done, couldn't he? As poor as he is at keeping anything, that's supposed to be secret a secret.
Hey, guess what?
Guess what? My best friend
Faye?
just told me.
Guess what?
Anyway, I'm lost where we are. He says, look.
Oh no, you bashed Adam.
You bashed Adam. If you need to, I'm not going to report you. You need to do what you feels right for you. And she says, I think actually I want to confess.
I don't know. I know some Americans are listening, and obviously people from around the world, different types of police, but particularly in America, I know you guys have got a few bits and problems with your police force, and
not on the top of everybody's Christmas list.
Notoriously kind of bit harsh on people. Here, the police's motto is actually do what feels right for you. No
Very
pressure.
like that.
If you want to confess, fine. Equally, don't take your mental health into consideration by all means.
She wants to confess. Meanwhile, Maria sees Sally in the street and says, I think you're doing the right thing moving to Spain. Good luck. And fine.
What the hell
Sally's
are you talking
what
about,
do you mean
you
going
lunatic?
to Spain? She goes home and finds Tim with his passport, and she's like, you've got to have a very good reason for this. What is it? And he says, I can't say. I promised Faye that I wouldn't tell her massive secret. Sorry, Sally. Faye, meanwhile, is going and telling her own massive secret. She's at the police station, tells the desk sergeant there that she's here to hand herself in for the attack on Adam Barlow. And Willits is dubious somewhat at first, because as far as he's concerned, they've already collared her brother for this, and is maybe she just saying this to try and get him off, or
he's
or whatever,
also thinking
he kind of closed the door on that one.
Are you sure? Because that's another form.
Yeah.
Like I've done the form for Gary. I've got to do a form for you, and then I've got to do one for Gary again to get him out. Are you sure?
She explains that she thought it was Ray.
Okay, whatever's best for you.
And yeah, she just gets into a bit of a tear up about it, doesn't she?
This was very good.
It was great, yeah. While this is going on, Tim's also telling Sally about everything, about the rape, about the pregnancy test, going to see Gary last week.
And she says,
this is why he wants to go to Spain.
And she says, this, I understand now, it makes perfect sense. Everything you said adds up
I'd want to go to Spain too.
Move to Spain.
Yeah.
Why Spain? Why not Italy or Switzerland?
They do like a bit of Spain.
They always go to Spain.
Sometimes France.
Mostly Spain, though.
It is, yeah.
I've never been to Spain. Have you been to Spain?
I've been to Spain a few times.
I want to go to Spain. On the run. I won't tell you what I've
Craig
done.
comes round and tells them, Faye's confessing, you might want to go over there. So Tim and Sally hot-foot it to the police station.
Hey, Tim, guess what?
Guess what? There's an interview going on
gossip.
there. I'm not supposed to tell you
Oh,
this.
don't tell anybody.
Tim wants to chaperone Faye, but he's not allowed to because she's 18. So she's in there sort of crying her eyes out, telling Willits all about the attempted rape, how Gary rescued her, how
he made her feel bad,
dirty and cheap about it, how she wanted revenge on him and everything. And we find out that Gary may well be let out once what she said has been corroborated. What she's done is a serious offence, mind, but it's not down to Willits what happens to her. So she is kind of left with this hanging over her at the end of the week. And Tim's mad at Craig for getting her to confess, isn't he?
I don't know what... I've heard bad things from victims of crime before about communication from the police about things, but it does strike me as, if you're going to do paperwork which feels essentially time wasting, wouldn't you also expect the police to go, Adam, just so you know, the person who attacked you is Faye and we've released her on bail. Is that okay? Just be careful, she might do it again.
Well, it's not long until Adam finds out. It's Wednesday, isn't it?
No, I know, but the thing is that it was Faye that told him. Yeah. The police were like, oh, he doesn't need to know.
No.
If he didn't notice the first time.
Basically all that happens for the rest of the episode is Ray gets arrested for attempted rape by Willits, and that's our big cliffhanger for Monday. So I'll pass it back over to you to combine these stories now for Wednesday's action, Gemma.
Well, hang on. Faye tells Gary in prison, and he's mad at her, and then Ray gets carted off, but doesn't. He comes back almost straight away on Wednesday. So Abby's feeling a bit unsatisfied because she feels like
Ray's been arrested, so she should be on top of the world. But
but it doesn't feel like justice has been done. Debbie finds Ray in the bistro because he's come out of the police station. He's like, I don't care. She's an adult. we can, it was 2 adults, whatever, nothing happened, that was bad. That's all that happened, nothing. And I genuinely believe that he doesn't get it.
No, he doesn't. He's not just saying it to try and get out of it. He doesn't. He thinks that what he's done is just normal behaviour.
Or maybe he does. I don't know. I don't want to give him the benefit of the doubt, but it feels like there are plenty of men out there who would have the same attitude, and I don't think that there's anything that anybody can say to them that would ever make them change their mind, unfortunately. Debbie's fuming at him, and it's difficult to tell whether she's mad at him for being a molester or mad at him for messing up her deals. Bit of both, maybe. Abby chats with Faye, who and she's like proud of her for confessing, but Faye's like, I honestly, I don't think he's gonna get away with it, isn't he? I don't think anything's gonna happen. Willis is with Adam. This was really interesting, and he's like, so that statement that you made about who attacked you, you want to change anything about it? And he said, nope. I know what I said. I never accused Gary. I just told you that we had a fight. And I don't want to change anything. And Willis, at this point, still hasn't told him who the attacker was, which I get it's dramatically exciting, but in real life, wouldn't there be some kind of duty of care to tell Adam, who's the victim of the crime?
I don't know.
But what is Adam being suspected of? He's being treated like he's a criminal as well, but he's a victim of a crime.
I don't know how these things work.
I don't know how they work, but I know how they should work. You know what I'm saying?
So Willett should say, look, just want to warn you, your attacker was that little girl who lives down the road, so just look both ways before you cross the street, because she could jump out of the villain's alley at you and try again with a sledgehammer.
Yeah, I know, you're being sarcastic, but, I mean, if the genders were reversed, would you not think that if Adam accidentally attacked Faye because he thought it was Maria or something, wouldn't you be surprised that the police didn't say, watch out for Adam?
I suppose maybe at the moment it's because she's still not been convicted of the crime, so she's just confessed it, and maybe he still doesn't. I don't know, he does believe it, doesn't he, at this point, Willett? So I think at the beginning he
I just think I think obviously this is not supposed to be, this is not real life, it's just entertainment, but it is interesting to think about the reality of the situation and how would it actually have gone. Yeah. God knows we don't want reality to get in the way of a good story, do we? Willits also did that thing again where he did the Columbo thing where he was like, just one more thing, by the way. Anyway, he leaves and Adam phones Peter, and because he thinks all of these hints that Willits was dropping were that he suspects Peter. So he's like, watch out, Peter, I think you're in trouble.
Yes.
Faye and Abby see Ray leaving the bistro, and Alia's like, let's go and tell the police that he's a sex case. And they think, oh, it's still not enough to like make a difference, even though they've both had experiences with him, haven't they?
Yeah.
Adam tells Sarah that the attacker must be Peter, but then why did Gary have the award?
Oh yeah. Why did Gary have the award?
If it was Peter, I'm confused. And then Faye comes in and says, don't worry your pretty head about it, Adam. You're getting frown lines and that's no good. It was me what done it. And they're like, what? And she says, yeah, no, I don't have an motive, do I? But listen to this. I didn't know it was you.
It was very dark and
I was running,
had a bit of whiskey.
I was drunk, it was dark, and I was running backwards and forwards in front of the camera to create a dramatic effect.
For Christmas Day.
So it was all a bit of a blur, to be honest. Sarah was like, "Aw."
Sarah was lovely. She didn't do much this week, did Sarah, but I did appreciate her sympathy.
She tells them why she wanted to attack Ray, and so obviously Sarah feels sympathy to her, and Faye says, no matter what happens, you have to understand that Gary didn't do anything wrong and he's a hero because he went to prison to protect me. And they're like, I don't know about that. Whatever, They were all with her until she started on the poor Gary story. Yeah. Abby and Ollie have gone to the police station to tell them about Ray, but they don't really feel like it made much of a difference. And they also wonder why Ray didn't try to gag Faye like his other victims. I guess he's run out of money.
Yeah, I guess
that can be the only reason, probably. Abby goes to the hotel I mean,
Speaking of other victims.
you know what I just said about, I don't know whether Ray thinks he did anything wrong. Of course he does, otherwise he wouldn't have bribed people to keep their mouths shut.
Well, no.
But there are people who are like Ray, who do things like that and don't get...
I don't know, I think I haven't done anything wrong, but I don't need you. Yeah, I don't need the hassle that you would cause, yeah.
I don't know. Don't want to make excuses.
Or is
for
he just
case.
advised by his lawyer to do it? And he's I didn't do anything. I just complimented her on her pretty dress, and I have to take it off. And Miles is like, I think you need to, give them a grand. As
your legal advisor, I must tell you, you need to bribe her.
Yes.
You think that's what he said?
Yes.
Okay.
He's a dodgy lawyer.
That's your dodgy brief, I must tell you. Abby goes to the hotel, finds a waitress, and tells her, I used to go out with Ray, where is he? And she's like, oh, that's weird. I wouldn't have thought he was the happy couple type. And Abby's like, happy couple? No, I said I was dating him. I didn't say I was happy. She tries to ask her more questions because she can tell that the waitress has got a story or two to tell. And she's like, no, I'm not going to tell it. I'm not getting involved in this. Don't even ask me about it. So Abby says, well, how about some people who worked here? What about a list of past waitresses? Don't you have any information?
She's been a bit full on. She's
been a bit weird. It's like, oh, what, you want my boss's list of people that he attempted or did actually rape? Yeah, there is a big list of with people's names.
There's a clipboard hanging up behind the bar. I'm just going to go out to the kitchen.
I'll just get it for you.
Leave you to roam and find it yourself.
She says, I'm going. I don't want to talk to you anymore, and she leaves. And so Abby can go behind the bar to look for this handy list of victims that she thinks that are kept on the premises. I wouldn't put it past him. Then Ray and the councilwoman come in, so Abby quickly ducks behind the bar. They start arguing really loudly. Abby already had her phone out because she was going to take a picture or something, and she's like, oh my god, how convenient, I shall film this now with my phone.
It was at this very moment that this week went from being quite good to being brilliant. Despite the fact that this was a massively contrived situation, she just happened to be there at the right time. She just happened to literally have her phone in her hand on camera mode when they walked in.
Brilliant.
But I forgive this for what
because
went
the thing
on
is,
afterwards.
There was a convincing setup. It's one thing to have I walk around the corner and there's Abby and there's Ray and the councilwoman in Victoria Gardens talking really loudly. I'll just film them. She went there to find information out, and she had her phone because she was doing.
I
know it's contrived, but it is certainly not as lazy as, oh look, there's somebody over there I can listen to their conversation. So they're having this argument. She records it. Ray.
They're just talking about the bribe, aren't they?
Yes. Ray says, "Don't worry about it. Everything will be fine. But just remember that our deal is I give you money so that you can get the property developed. Are we all agreed? And we're going on the record that this is our plan." And she says, "Yes, I don't understand why you're getting me to say this." And they all leave, and Abby's like, oh, this couldn't have gone any better.
She has this great jaw drop moment. She's so chuffed with herself, isn't she? I love it.
Kevin has an argument with Debbie because he can't believe that she's on the side of a sex case. And she says, look, it's purely business. And he says Ray tried to blackmail Abby with a compromising photo. So not only is Debbie found out that Ray screwed her brother over financially, but also, all of this horrible stuff that he's done with personal life. And
I'm surprised it's taken so long for Kevin to reveal this. I kind of assumed that he would have already told her all the gory details about Ray's past. Why would he withhold this bombshell?
I guess he was trying to be respectful to Abby, but I think Abby, the fact that she's been shouting that Ray is a sex case up and down the street, not even, this is literal. She's literally had a megaphone and she's been shouting about what Ray has done to her. So how Debbie sort of didn't catch on to this is a bit confusing. But Kevin spells it out for her, and she's like, "Oh no, this is dreadful."
It was interesting that Debbie was saying, "Oh look, this is business. He's just a business partner." It's like you could tell that by this stage she didn't really believe that, and she's just trying to convince him herself that she can take a step back from.
She's like,
all his,
look,
personal.
Ray and I just have a purely business arrangement, the same way that me and Nestle have a business arrangement. Yes, they do abuse people and do terrible things and try to get African women hooked on their powdered milk so their breast milk would dry up and they would have no choice but to feed their children expensive Nestle milk. Yes, I know, but Kit Kats are good. So what am I supposed to do? Kevin, you tell me. Have you ever found a convincing alternative to Kit Kats with that delicious wafery goodness? No. So don't come to me about ethics in business. Me and Ray and Nestle are all going to just carry on purely business. And he says, you've actually got a point there, Debs. I guess I can't complain too much because I also like Kit Kats. So
I think we've gone off topic slightly, but never mind. She makes a good point.
The point is, we all, you know, and there are very few people who are principled enough to ensure that every single person that takes any money from them whatsoever is the most ethical.
Yeah.
I mean, we sometimes, I'm going to say, we have Kit Kats sometimes, but I will say that we selected our energy provider based on the amount of green energy that they provide. So,
Roy Crosby would be
one
proud
or the
of
other. One or the other.
She just wants to save face at the last minute because this is a horse that she's been backing all year. And
this is what I said.
Just as the year's gone on, she's realising she
says,
really shouldn't. And
to be fair, I won't probably go back into business with him again. But at this stage, it's a bit late.
That's another reason why she just wants it to be signed, so that she can
get rid of him.
She can get her money, and it's like,
get
I'm
the
not
hell
having
out of her.
Yeah, get out of my life.
Never have anything to do with him ever again.
Because if she doesn't, she knows that she's going to lose all this
money.
Let's
be frank, though. Let's be frank. How many people are in a position whereby they can say, I don't know how much money do you think Debbie's got invested in this? Tens of thousands.
Yeah, hundreds of thousands, probably.
If somebody said to you, you lose £100,000 of your own money that you've saved up, or you help somebody who's a sex pest.
Yeah.
Like, is £100,000 of my money worth the moral integrity of me saying, no, he's a naughty man? Because where would the money go if Debbie left it? He would get all of it anyway. Mm. There's literally no way for her to win in this situation.
No.
And Kevin's given her a hard time about it, but he would honestly, I know what Kevin's like. I don't think he would be any different. And in fact, I think Kevin is the sort of bloke who would be trying to make excuses for Ray. You know, sometimes it's hard to tell what a woman really wants.
Well, I mean, Kevin himself has been a bit of a sex pest in the past. He's had his affairs. He's
a Neanderthal, and I don't think he's got a good moral backbone.
He thinks of his trousers.
So, but let's not forget that Debbie tried to frame Abby with drugs. The Robin and Oxo
I know. But I think that they are actually doing a fairly good, having a fairly good go at, I forgot, redeeming her.
I think Debbie's the most interesting character.
It's been obvious for at least a month and a half or so that Debbie is going to be on the road to redemption. And I think at first I was like, oh really? Why can't they just have her stay villainous? And how can she come back from this? She's clearly, gone too far down the dark path. But actually, I
don't think
we're kind of championing Debbie at this stage.
I challenge people to genuinely think of what they would do in this situation. There are very few people who can hold their hand on the heart and say, I would not have anything to do with it. As soon as he started doing illegal stuff, that's a different thing. I think I would immediately dob him in because I would be worried about getting in trouble myself.
What, like bribing the counsellor?
Exactly.
Yeah, and this
but the thing is, though, that then becomes a case of, well, I could go to prison if I don't say, if I let this happen and people find out that I knew, I could be in serious trouble. So I completely sympathise with Debbie. She's in a really awkward position. She never got into business with Ray going, I know what I'll do.
No, she
I'll
didn't
empower
know what
a sex case.
Yeah. Well, no, I suppose she did know what it was like because...
No, she knew...
She's had history with him before, hasn't she? But
that it's not apparent that Debbie had any idea that he was as predatory as he is. And let's face it, we've been making, as a society, excuses for men who are like this for years and years and years. They've gotten away with this. Boys will be boys. You just come on a bit strong. Maybe mixed messages. I can forgive people for making excuses. This is a fictional show, and Debbie is, Debbie only knows what Ray's told her as well.
Yeah.
Up to this
true.
point. And so when Ray comes to her and says, "Oh yeah, well maybe I flirt a bit too much," okay, at a certain stage, there are blokes who do that, and there are blokes like Ray.
Yeah.
You can't just condemn everybody. I don't know. Getting myself in trouble here, digging myself a sinkhole. So where am I?
We're with Craig. This is when Craig had his friend zone kind of line with Faye.
Oh, you've done the
Nothing
right
much
thing.
happens.
Blah,
Yeah.
blah, blah.
Faye's
Have a
so
friend.
glad to have a friend.
Oh,
Faye,
great.
yeah.
Yes, a friend, says Craig. A friend with benefits, he says, hopefully. She just ignores him. Abby goes and tells Faye what she's recorded. This could get him put behind bars, and Faye says, I guess it could get him sent down for a fraud and stuff and bribery, but he won't get his name on the sex offender register.
Yeah, it's interesting that Abby, who had been, shouting from the rooftops about about him being a dirty old man just a few weeks ago, at this stage has almost forgotten about this because she's got
she's like, I've got
massive
justice
bit of
for the other
evidence,
thing.
but yeah,
and she's the one. You're right. When everyone else was saying, don't knock down the houses, she was saying, but he's a sex pest. And now she's flipped the other way around, and Faye's the one saying he's a sex pest, and now he's going, but don't worry about the houses. So I also don't know. I don't know about this sex offender register. I need to know more about it.
What do you want to know? Ray called it the nonce list.
The nonce list. There must be people who are on it that I know. How do you check?
I don't know.
Like what?
You don't have to
what I'm trying to but what I'm trying to work
wear
out.
a badge.
Yeah, do you have to wear a
Star of David?
Yeah. No. Does it really? I mean, there must be things like you can't go near schools or something, but
Yeah.
it doesn't, you don't have to say, before we start this conversation, I have to tell you I'm a sex offender. And the guy goes, so I work at Costa, I just want to know what size latte you need. You know what I mean? I'm not sure how this would actually stop him from doing what he's done.
No, I don't know.
Do you see what my point is?
But if he's
it's better than nothing.
as a businessman, and I don't know how often people do background checks on people they're doing business with. And,
No, I don't know. That's my point.
And it would all be in the papers, wouldn't it? Anyway,
I don't know. I guess
local,
local nonce
millionaire or however rich he's supposed to be.
Oh God! Did you see there was but listen, there was an article in the Times that I saw on Twitter today. Like the headline was something like, "Stockbroker's career in tatters after he chokes his girlfriend outside his apartment."
No.
It's like, that horrible lady ruining that man's career by letting him choke her. What a cow! Why don't they think of his income and his possible future earnings? Anyway, yeah, we're still screwed up as a society. So anyway, she wants to put him on the sex offender register. I don't know. I think if you had the choice, I think what I would do is work out which one he's most likely to get in trouble for and how long he's going to get in prison, and whichever one.
This is what he was having to weigh up in today's with when Miles came over.
I guess they were right.
You're going to go down for one of them. Is why. I
guess they were right to get him. It seems like he really didn't want to be on the list because he doesn't think of himself as being a sex offender, and that's kind of an ego.
Yeah.
It kind of, maybe it will bring him to reality. I honestly don't. I think that people like Ray have got such padded egos, nothing can touch them. So they decide, that they want to Faye's like, oh, I really wish he would go down for what he did to me. So Ray's like, Ray and Debbie are talking, and he says, I didn't try to rape Faye. And she's like, I don't think I believe you. And he says, I don't really care, it doesn't make any difference. So she says, look, the best thing that you can do is to sign the business over to me so your name's not attached to it, and then we can get this done, and all of the stigma that's attached to you will not be attached to this project, and we can just get on with it, and then we can never see each other again. He's like, nope.
It doesn't feel like it should be that easy. Just because your partner's running it now, people aren't gonna forget or not realise or not find out, but he doesn't care because he
says, I don't care, it will be fine. Abby comes in, she says, Ray, I've got a video of you, and he's like, oh no, which one? On the phone, Gary tells Faye he's proud of her and she needs to start wising up and looking after herself. He warns her. Faye tells Tim that she told Adam it was her what done it. Also, Ray's been released and Tim's like, I said we should have gone to Spain. None of this would have happened if we were in Spain right now. Abby says to Ray, I will bury the video if you confess to trying to rape Faye. Then she doesn't have to go through the trial and the trauma of the witness, it being I completely sympathise with Abby here because she's trying to stop a Faye from being victimised all over again by reliving her experience. It's quite a noble thing that she's trying to do.
She does, but Abby also does want him to be officially...
Yeah, but this gets that without having to drag
on the list.
Faye through a horrible experience.
Yeah.
So, Ray's like, oh, I don't know. I need some time to think about it. And Abby's so dumb, she's like, okay, I'll give you an hour. I thought it was an hour, wasn't it? Or was it 24 hours?
No, he wanted 24 hours and she's like, nope.
I wouldn't have even given him that.
Clock's ticking.
She's silly. Tim goes to see Adam. He's already spoken to the police and he says, I don't support the prosecution of Faye, but he says, look, it's out of my hands, honestly. It's something really I can do if they want to go ahead, but I can be a difficult witness, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, and
the thing is, he's already admitted he didn't know, he didn't see anything.
Yeah, you can't drop the charges against you because he's... Oh, okay. Is it something along the lines of, didn't we have this with another story recently, that he's a witness in the crime against him and it's down to the... Is it down to the CPS about whether it gets dropped or not, and... Basically, he can say, I don't think that she should be prosecuted, but it's not necessarily going to hold water. Although I kind of suspect that in this case it might do. I'm not expecting Faye to end up, behind bars.
Depends on how much Adam would be willing to lie.
I asked her to come and hit me. I remember now.
But he could be like, I don't think it could possibly have been a woman. I definitely remember it was a man. And nobody can say, well, you're wrong.
Well, it depends whether he's going to try and pin it on Peter, doesn't it?
Well, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
On Friday, Kevin can see Abby's a bit tense.
The hour's nearly up. And it's felt like 48 hours since
Can you believe it?
Since she left Ray's office.
Since Wednesday, she says. She says, it's Ray makes me... he says, leave him alone. But she's sitting in the car and she's cleaning the steering wheel of the car and sees Miles going into the bistro. And Miles like, if I was you, I'd say, you tried to assault Faye because you need to do one or the other. And I think that's the path of least resistance, basically.
Yeah. And
he says, no, I don't want to.
Yeah, if you do that, then this whole building project can still go ahead and you won't lose oodles and oodles of cash.
Yes. Plus you also did, didn't you? So, fair's fair. Ray invites Abby over. He's like, I need to clarify some things. It's like, I should bring my agenda. Shall we take minutes?
I'm glad that Abby wasn't completely dumb then and just strolled into the bistro.
Well, she says, I'm not, no way,
on her chest.
No way I'm going to the bistro. Let's have a meeting in the Rovers because it's more public. So, Sal tells Kevin...
Which it was an odd reason. Let's go somewhere that's more public, but we can't actually do it in the public bit of the Rovers. We have to go out of the back where nobody else actually is. So you could potentially still beat me up or whatever, or drug me, which
whatever
is what ends up actually happening.
Oh, I didn't see that coming, did you?
No, I didn't.
So, Sally tells Kevin that she's worried that Tim's going to batter Ray. He's like, can you take him out and calm him down so that he's not mad? I think it takes more than a pint to get him over what's happened. So, Ray and Abby go out the back of the Rovers and he says, this was kind of funny, he says, I'll confess about Faye, if you delete the footage. And she says, I'll delete the footage if you confess about Faye.
It was kind of a bit of a stalemate, wasn't it? But really...
Abby was being a bit dumb here because it's like, well, I don't have anything to lose.
No. She could have been like, fine, I'm going to send this... I mean, in the end, she did, didn't she?
Yeah, she's like, I know what I want from you. I want you to go down for something. You can pick what it is. If
she'd walked away and then just sent the video to everyone, what could he have done?
No, I know, she gave him too much power.
But the thing with the fact that the video did actually get sent, she must have been sending it while she was pretty much sitting there with him. Because
no,
but when else would
listen.
Oh, go on.
Let's talk about it. So, Sally is surprised to hear from Emma that Abby and Ray are out the back of the Rovers. And she goes to investigate, and she's like, Abby, come here, what the hell are you doing? Why are you talking to Ray? And she says, I've got a secret plan to get Faye off of the Barlow bashing charges and get Ray in trouble. So, eventually, the standoff between Abby and Ray finishes. He says, fine, I'll go. I'll make the first move. They get up, and she starts to get woozy. They've both been... She's had this orange juice, and obviously, when stupid Sally came to distract Abby, he must have slipped in a drink then.
Yeah.
So she's now been drugged, and she realises immediately what he has done to her, and starts trying to escape. And he's following her, going, "Oh, what's wrong?" And she tries to get her phone, and she just fumbles at the screen and drops it on the floor, collapses. And he's there going, "Oh dear." I don't know how we managed to pick an unconscious Abby up in broad daylight, carry her through to the bistro, but he managed to do it.
Yeah,
Nobody else
watching there.
He should have just been like...
Do you think he chucked her in a wheelie bin or something and trundled her down the
Well, you say
ginnel?
that, but I know there's definitely a murder case where a student in an American school killed a teacher and carted her body through the school.
Oh, really?
In a bin, I think.
Yeah, we don't need to know how exactly that happened.
It happened, everybody, and she ends up on the floor in the bistro with Debbie there going, why is Abby on the floor unconscious? And also, why did she send me this video of you bribing a counsellor? This was so fantastic.
That was a great moment.
Because
I thought, have I missed something? And it's like, oh no.
Up until this point, I was thinking, "Oh, Abby, you loony, you
so was
stupid. I can't
Abby's
believe you'd be
so
this naive. He's going to get the phone off her and delete it, and then we're back to square one."
Because I think on Wednesday's episode, or maybe it was early on Fridays, he was like, well, how do I know you haven't made a copy of it? And she's like, yeah, how do you know? You just have to trust me.
But she probably went home and went, that's a good idea. I should
probably do that. Yeah, I've got an hour to do it. Yeah. I need to find out how to.
Just upload it to Flickr.
But generally, characters on Corrie don't do the obvious things like that. They don't have their cloud storage apart from Jeff.
Yeah, this was why this was a good story, because it was unexpected that suddenly, not just Debbie gets this, but other people start getting it too, and they're all going, "What is this? I don't understand." And blimmin' Ray is going absolutely bonkers trying to think of all these stupid ideas for how we can get away with it.
Can I pay them all off?
He's like, I'll just bribe everyone. And Debbie's like, "No, we need to call an ambulance."
That's his only resort, isn't it? That's what he's used to being able to do. That's his first answer to everything, but he ain't got the cash anymore, and it's too many people. And some of them, there's people like Roy in there.
They're not going. I mean, Roy was literally going to spend £100,000 to get him in trouble.
Yeah.
So
she sent it to everybody on the list, so it has gone viral.
I reckon what happened is they've got a WhatsApp group.
Yes.
Like a protest WhatsApp group. She's like, sent to all my friends. And then she sends an emoji of like her doing a wink.
There's probably a good, 75% of the people that received that video not got a clue who it is in it or what they're talking about. Why have I been sent this?
Delete this. It looks like spam. So Ray sort of starts off at let me bribe everybody, and then turns to, let's just murder Abby, that will solve all the problems. And Debbie doesn't point out to him that this doesn't actually help, it just makes things worse. She just says, I'm not going to help you kill her, we need to call the ambulance. Abby kind of starts waking up, and she can see and hear things a little bit, but it's all there was
a quite good twist at the end with Ray's disappearance, and some of the things that happened in this scene are going to be important then. So, for example, the fact that Abby knows that Debbie was in there.
Ah, yeah. He trips over, Ray trips over, and he falls directly onto a massive upturned shard of glass.
Yeah, handy that was
straight into the palm of his hand, blood everywhere.
Also setting things up for, where Ray's missing. Is he dead? Did Ray do it? Abby thinks that she saw Debbie there. There's Ray's DNA all over the place.
And
And,
we're
I'm
not
not just
just
talking blood.
So
Sex case.
He chases Debbie into the kitchen, and she's trying to dial 999. She's on the phone, and he says, "What did he say? I told you not to do that," or something like that. And she just looks at him. Then we cut. The scene ends. Then we see Seb's like, "Hello, I'm in it now. Kevin, have you seen this video?" Kevin's exactly the sort of guy he would not. He's the kind of guy who doesn't understand the mobile part of a mobile phone.
Well,
you can just imagine that he has the place where he plugs his phone in the evening and he doesn't look at it at all, and then he moans when he doesn't get told stuff.
He was the butt of an online joke for a good 6 months a few years ago, wasn't it, with Kev the Crank? He didn't realise that everybody around him knows him as Kev the Crank for rants and bans. It's
he doesn't get
flies
it.
right over his head.
He probably still has one of those Nokias.
Yeah.
So anyway, he hasn't seen
Surprised
this
he
video.
didn't have a rotary phone pull it out of from his purple bomber jacket.
Hello, Weatherfield 543.
Ahoy, Kevin Webster.
He's like, "What video?" And Seb's like, shows him the video. So immediately Kevin tries to ring Abby, but it goes to voicemail. He recognises the scene that this is and thinks that she's filmed this now in the hotel. So he starts to head out, but luckily meets Sally, and she says, "Oh no, they're not there. I just saw them at the pub." So then they notice the ambulance pull up outside the bistro. This can be no coincidence. It must be Abby. She gets wheeled out. She was alone in the bistro. Mysterious. And they're like, "What's wrong with this woman?" And Kevin says, "Well, she was a drug addict, but she hasn't been for months and months." And you can see the paramedics like, "Huh, okay." Right.
That's what they all say, sir.
Yeah, she wouldn't have taken anything. But I do need to tell you, if you take her into hospital, don't leave drugs around.
Yeah.
Because we got into this trouble last time.
Yes, do you remember?
Okay.
3 or 4 months ago.
Yeah. Abby wakes up next to Kevin in the hospital. She doesn't remember anything, and she doesn't even remember how she sent the video.
That was weird.
I tell you what it is, Michael.
What?
It's because we know that she's got a Samsung, but she's used to using an iPhone. She must have pressed the wrong button.
You reckon?
Yeah, I reckon. Do you not think?
Yeah.
I don't know how to work a Samsung.
I think we need to try and piece together the timeline in a minute.
Debbie shows up. She's like, "Ray? Who is Ray? What is Ray? Where is Ray? I don't know." She says, "I'm sorry, Abby. What happened to you? I will help you from now on."
Yes, she has made the switch.
Yes, she used Compare the Meerkat, and she switched her
to the good side.
evil provider to Abby.
Yes. So they're all very excited. Finally, we've reached the end of this incredibly long story, an hour into Street Talk. And we've been kind of giving our opinions as we've been going along. But
I never thought, we really didn't pick up, maybe I'm being a bit slow or just getting distracted by all the amazing tweets I've done today. But I didn't really get that, when you were like, "Oh, maybe Debbie killed Ray," I was like, "What? Oh, yeah, he is missing."
it was funny because I didn't know any of that was going to happen today. I went into tonight's Coronation Street thinking I didn't know what was going to happen. Obviously, there was this you got 24 hours Ray kind of time limit that something would then happen. But I wasn't expecting there to be, the chase, the blood, the attack, the missing person, the ambulance, all of that. That was great, and it kind of felt like a kind of not quite Britain's Got Talent Super Soap Week, but it felt like it ramped up fairly intensely, but within COVID guidelines. Particularly that scene in the bistro with Ray and Debbie towards the end, didn't it? They were still managing to stay 2 meters away from each other, and I don't know whether they should have kind of EastEnders it and made it so that they could be a bit closer to each other, because it felt like they were skirting around each other a little bit too much. But it didn't bother me too much. I was just excited to be caught up in some unexpected drama and really, really not knowing what was going to happen next, because sometimes when characters get into spots of bother, you think they'll be okay, they're not going to kill off so and so. But with both Debbie and Ray, I mean, Ray's obviously got a limited shelf life on the street, but I don't know when he's going. Debbie, I've got no idea whether they have got any intention of keeping her on, or whether they were going to, turn her into a... Is murderer the right term? I don't know. If I call Gary a murderer for beating Rick Neelan, then that means that Debbie's a murderer as well, if she's done Ray in.
If you are responsible for the death of another human being...
But he was self-defense, wasn't it? I'm sure he could say that when he was being attacked by Rick, and Debbie was certainly backed into the corner in the bistro. But in any case, this is clearly where it's going to be going next week. I was wondering though, do you think it would have been better if we hadn't seen Ray or Debbie at the end? When she strolls into the hospital, I was more confused, because I was either expecting not to see either of them again, and that be the mystery that we're left with over the weekend. Hang on a minute, why was Abby left on her own in the bistro? Or we'd have, like a final scene of them together in a darkened room somewhere, either, Debbie knocked out or dead or tied to a chair or something, and Ray crowing over her, or vice versa. What would you prefer? Would you prefer to have left it as a mystery, or...
I like the mysteries. What do you mean? It is a mystery. How is this not a mystery?
But there would have been a better mystery if we didn't know where Debbie was, because if we'd have not seen either of them, we would be talking now, which one of them is dead?
That's true.
Could either of them be dead? Could they have killed each other? And now we know Debbie's fine, but what we don't know is has she done Ray in?
Oh, exciting! I don't think she has, because that would be too exciting.
I don't think she has either. And the fact that, like I said, Ray's blood is now on the floor.
Also,
Abby's going to remember Debbie being there. She's going to be accused of doing Ray in. But
also, I
don't know whether she has. But then it makes me think, so what happened after he backed her into the corner in the kitchen? Did he just say,
oh damn it,
I'm going home now? Oh, I just remember I left the
oven
on her.
Curse you, woman, and ran away.
Or did he just hear the flashing lights coming? I don't know why he would...
flashing lights.
Hear the sirens. I don't know why he would have left her and let her get away.
Well, because he wanted her to not...
away.
Yeah, but he's like, don't call an ambulance, and she did anyway. And he's like, well, I could stand here and argue with you, or I could go on the run. I heard Spain's a good place.
So he's on the run basically now, isn't he?
That's what I
think. And it feels to me like, a villain's life cycle on Coronation Street. When the end is nigh, they generally go off for a bit and then come back for a last stand.
Yeah, sneak up and then have a bit confrontation.
Yeah, Pat Phelan, he went away to Wales for a bit, didn't he? Richard Hillman, he went away before the final thing. Quite often they'll have a little break and then they come back for their last hurrah. Mm-hmm. And I think maybe, I don't know when we'll see Ray again, but it feels like it could be 2, 3, 4 weeks time,
or it could be next week.
It could be that he'll come back, and I think the end is definitely in sight for him.
Yeah.
Once Debbie has been accused,
unless she definitely killed him and put him in the sex freezer.
I assume he did. I mean, do you think that he's going to end up dead after this? I think the fact that he's likely to be accused, I
guess the question is,
people are going to suspect he is, makes me think, he probably won't be then.
If he ends up dead, and it wasn't Debbie that kills him now, who will it be?
Who will what be?
What kills him? Someone's got to kill him.
No, yeah, exactly.
But it does feel a bit like, we just had this with Jeff.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Maybe this is a bit too much.
If they killed off Jeff, and then 2 months later, 1 month later, they kill off Ray.
Good.
No, I think he may end up behind bars.
Right. Let's go to Spain.
What? No. What? What else has happened? I mean, it felt like we were talking about Abby. We haven't talked about Abby.
I'm so happy.
Oh, the cat has just turned around. We're not talking about you.
I couldn't just say,
are you
in
a hero?
This house, all three of us have got namesakes on the show, and I feel very shortchanged because both of your characters are way better than my character, and if any of them is going to win the gold medal for the best character on the street, it's definitely Abby.
It's definitely going to be the cat that's going to win this.
She continuously surprises and delights me with how heroic she is and how awesome and selfless.
And it doesn't
she
get
like
boring.
recklessly throws herself into danger, and she's not the sort of character as well who's like a boring goody two shoes who's like saving everyone, like how like Captain America in the Avengers is the most boring Avenger because he's like, oh, I'm so brave and selfless, I'll help everyone. Whereas like Abby's like, yeah, I'm a druggie, but I also care about people because they can give me drugs.
She's just brilliant.
Yeah, she is, and
it's almost it is a bit of a joke that she saves the day again,
also,
and I wasn't expecting it either. And it could have been any number of people who'd been the one to get Ray caught on camera.
Yeah.
And when it was her again.
Yeah.
I could have been like, oh, why does it have to be Abby? But instead I was like, no, of course it's Abby.
Yeah.
Who else would it be
She's
but
so
Abby?
feisty and so like she's so diminutive and like scrappy.
And just her reactions to everything is wonderful. Like the jaw drop. She's so proud of herself. And,
she reacts
and her cockiness when she went round to see Ray. And some of the little, micro reactions, expressions that she did. And she was like, oh, salad number 6. Oh, she's going to have to unpack all her boxes now. Kind of thing.
I think she's sometimes
brilliant.
like the bitchy embodiment of the audience, that isn't she? Like the bitchy things that we say, she says it out loud. But she's not one of these. She's not like a snarky battle axe kind of.
No, she's so.
There's nobody else like her.
Lovable. No, there's not. And
she's not bored. It's not got old yet.
No, occasionally, her Achilles heel, if you like, is the drugs. And when we had that story a couple of months ago where it looked like she was going to go back on the drugs again, and is she going to, have her addiction problems? I don't need that. And when she was with Peter, that did nothing for me. That left me cold, really. But everything else is just amazing. Sally Carman is such an asset to the show. She's rocketing right up there.
I know.
Easily. I mean, if I was to say who are my favourite characters on Coronation Street at the moment, she probably would be like right there next to David.
Yeah.
I think David and
Power
Abby
couple.
currently, and
Yeah.
I've had lots of other favourite characters in the past, and sometimes. Like with Jenny, I still love Jenny, but she's certainly not been, a major character in Coronation Street, sadly, for a little while, and I'm hoping that she's going to, get those stories back again. But Abby's she's easily one of the best things about Coronation Street, and I said before, like, just dump her into any scene, and you know that the scene will be better because of her presence.
Yeah.
And there aren't many characters that you can say that to.
Yeah. And it to me, I really I like it because it's one of Tony Warren's original kind of founding concepts of Coronation Street was telling stories about strong women who, ruled the roost, and the great sort of titans of the North who needed to be celebrated on television. And to me, Abby's kind of like a modern reinvention of what that means. Like
she's rough and ready. She can hold her own in an
scrappy,
argument, but she's
down to earth.
She's lovable, and she's got a heart.
Good with her hands.
Yeah, I could see Abby squaring up against Ina Sharples on the street.
Oh, Ina Sharples would not approve of a woman who wears trousers, let alone is a mechanic. Mind you, the Queen was a mechanic during World War II, so...
Can you imagine a street showdown between Abby and Evelyn, say? That would just be amazing.
Yeah, I know, yeah. I think she's iconic.
She is
Abby,
really, really...
a legend in the
getting
making.
there. I mean, if this story had played out 10 years ago, it'd be Becky who'd be doing all this, I imagine.
Yeah.
And Becky was a very, very special character.
Yeah.
And she has gone down as a bit of a Corrie legend. And
Becky and Abby are similar in that they were both very flawed. And they had, she had a background with drugs and alcohol. Just like Abby has her demons to slay. But because of Abby's sort of physicality and her, literal putting her life in danger to save people, because of that, she is a unique female character in the soap.
It still feels, though, that she's not, widely recognised by...
It feels like she should be everyone's favourite character and she's not.
Yeah. And Becky, Catherine Kelly, got the... Did she get nominations? I don't remember.
Honestly,
It felt like the nation loved Becky more than they do Abby.
I know, but I don't think we've got our pulse on what the nation likes.
No.
What are you talking about?
I don't know.
If there are two people more sheltered than us, I'd like to see them.
I don't know how long Abby's going to stay in the show.
I want
hope
her to be
it's
in
for an
it forever.
incredibly long time. But I mean, if I was Sally Carman, I'd be kind of riding the wave of success that Coronation Street's giving, and maybe trying to get onto, other dramas.
Well, let's face it. Women I gave a bit away there. People that have done well at Corrie have been women who've played really strong, very iconic characters who have then taken the stereotypes that their career was built on and completely flipped them and sort of challenged people's expectations.
I suppose the difference with Sally Carman, though, is that if I think of Sarah Lancashire, Saran Jones, Catherine Kelly, they were new to acting when they came into Corrie, weren't they? They hadn't done many things before, whereas Sally Carman has got a bit of a CV behind her.
She never submitted it to me.
So she's kind of already made a name for herself before Coronation Street in a way. So maybe she's
Please stay in Coronation Street. Tell you what, doesn't it say something about like our mentality and like how pessimistic we are? That as soon as we start talking about somebody and how much we like them on this podcast, we're always like, please don't leave the show. Please never leave us.
I know. I just...
You're too good for us, but please never find out.
There's lots of characters that I like in Coronation Street. There's an awful lot of characters that like I don't mind, and it's like they can be funny, but they can also be boring. But Abby is definitely one of those up there, which I really, really do feel strongly, passionately about, and I would defend to the death.
Yeah,
and just the thought that one day she might not be in Coronation Street again makes me feel a bit sad.
The thing that's even sadder, to make even buy me out even more.
What?
You want to be true to the story of Abby, and you want her to leave the show. She's probably going to die saving someone's life.
I know.
Yeah, she probably will.
I know.
As long as she doesn't die like all those idiots who push somebody out of the way of a car and then wait for the car to run them over. As long as she doesn't do that. Anyway, let's stop.
Yeah, no.
I know, but I know it's worth talking about.
Even the fact that it was her there on the very contrived moment when she was filming Ray speaking very loudly about all his crimes. I think again because it was Abby, because of the reactions, because it was like, Abby's going to save the day again. That's one of the other things that made me not mind that Ray was digging his own grave.
Abby's the kind of character
he was asking to be caught, really.
Who really, you can tell a lot about our personalities by the fact that we like Abby and David, because both of those are kind of proxies for the audience at times, where they just kind of look at what's going on and go, bloody hell.
Yeah. I think you're right. I think you're really, really right, actually. So, I mean, do you think that whether Ray is dead or not, and I can only assume he's not, and if he is, it's not at the hand of Debbie, do you feel as well like the end is in sight for him? And if it is...
his card's been marked.
Is this a satisfying conclusion for him?
No, I think he's coming back for a final act.
Oh yeah, he'll be back for his final act, but are you happy that his story has run its course now?
No, what do you mean? For the moment.
Will it have done? If he comes back and he is in it for one more week, say, and that's enough, will that be enough, Ray?
I think lots of people will agree that they've had enough Ray.
Yeah. I spent a lot of 2020 thinking, why have they put Ray in the bistro? He's not done anything. We never see him.
Yeah.
Why didn't he just leave?
Because he's got lasagna to sell.
And I didn't really think much of him, but he really, really has.
Yeah, he's great.
And he's done a good job of filling the gap that Jeff left in a way as well.
Really, yeah.
He made way for him.
Yeah.
Made way for Ray. I think it. Yeah, and before I thought, well, he's not going to be remembered as a great Corrie villain, and I still don't think he's going to be talked about in the same breath as Hillman and Phelan and Tony Gordon.
He hasn't
or anything.
had enough time.
He's certainly, to me, at the same level as say Frank Foster.
Yeah, definitely.
Or maybe above that. And there've been so many wrong uns in Coronation Street's past. And if you think about you got your A tier, your B tier, which is I guess the likes of
Stape.
Frank and Stape and everything, and then you got your gangster mix who's down the lower end of the alphabet. Ray has really risen up there this year, so I hope that he has a great conclusion. I'm happy that it's Abby that's brought him down. I mean, to be perfectly dramatically satisfying, Michelle should really come back and be the one that sticks the knife in.
You're just saying that because we just talked about Anna Windass for our YouTube character upload.
Yeah.
And we talked about how Debbie Rush was giving all these interviews when Anna left, going, I don't think it's over between Alan and Philo. And we were going, what are you talking about, Debs? You're at the show. And then she was like, here I am, surprised.
There was actually one of the reasons that made me think to say this is there was an article in the Mirror or the Sun or something that I saw retweeted by Kim Marsh this evening saying fans want Kim Marsh to come back and be the one to take down Ray.
No, I wouldn't like that.
I wouldn't like that as well.
The story's moved on too much.
Yeah, but it started with her, didn't it?
I know, but of all the people that have been wronged by Ray, I don't think that she's top of the list.
No, I think if it's Faye and Abby,
yeah,
Faye's had worse done to her by Ray than Abby
Okay.
has, really.
Well,
But so maybe a bit of a double.
tag team.
Yeah. So speaking of Faye, what are we thinking about that side of the story? You mentioned earlier that Ellie Leach impressed you with her dramatics on Monday and Wednesday.
Yeah.
I thought she was good. She's been a funny character to watch over the past 5 or 6 years because she was definitely one that...
She floundered after Anna left. It's like...
Well, I think even before Anna left, there were a lot of people that weren't massive Faye fans. Yeah, I remember always being a bit of a... I can't remember what was the right word. I was always quite complimentary towards her, and I quite liked Faye actually when everybody else seemed to have given up on her and thought, why is this character still here? She doesn't do anything.
I'm pretty sure a significant 5 or 10 year anniversary of her being in the show is coming up soon.
Yeah, I think it is, which surprises me to think that she's been in the show that long. That
How
seems
long is
like
it?
I think it's 10.
It must be.
It feels like she hasn't had 10 years worth of stories behind her,
No,
does
she
it?
don't- she
Feels
hasn't.
like she's got pregnant and now this has happened and that's her 10 years basically. But I think Ellie Leach has been good. I wouldn't put her up there among my favourites. But I've championed her as the years have gone on, and with this story I'm thinking she's all right. But I did think that she did a good job with the confession on Wednesday.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that, that I want, once this story's over, for her to be on the A list of Corrie females or anything. I don't think that the character is that interesting, but it's nice that she's been given a crack at a decent story. If I compare her, say, to Asha and Tanisha Gorey's Renaissance and the surprise at just how amazing she is, I think I still prefer Asha to Faye.
Yeah.
But
yeah. I think Asha's a bit more of a complicated person somehow, which is weird to say because they managed to build that out of nothing.
Yeah, exactly. It did. It came out of nowhere, and also Asha was hardly even in it last year as well. But
yeah,
very,
it's
very,
completely
very
convincing, really well portrayed, logical. It didn't feel like an issue story tacked onto a character because they were the nearest one when the writers threw a dartboard,
Yeah, whereas I'm very excited to find out what the future has in store for the Allahans, Dev and the twins, I can't say that I feel the same way about Faye.
No.
If this story is over and that's kind of her, her little arc done, and she goes back to cleaning tables at the bistro again, and that's about it, I wouldn't be bothered. But yeah, for what it's worth, I think that she's been pretty good this week, and it's nice to see her be, have some morals and confess as well. But was it just to save Peter's skin? I don't know.
I'm also not at all interested in will they, won't they, Faye and Craig.
No, I'm not really. It feels like they're kind of made for each other. and they have been friends for a long time, and he was there to support her when she was pregnant and everything, and it was all quite sweet. But I'm not seeing kind of bubbling sexual tension from either side, really.
No.
He just is a little bit pathetic, and
he just wants a shag. It's like it's really hard to find you appealing when you're begging for sex.
Because
you've been nice to me.
I think
Michael,
I think he just like
no. If you use the term friend zone as a man and you're unaware of the connotations that it makes you sound like you're desperate for a shag, let this be your warning and a public service announcement.
It feels like Craig wouldn't know what to do.
Tuck this into your brain and remember, you can say it friend zone as much as you like, but what you say and what women hear are two different things.
Mm. I think they probably will end up getting together.
I think they do, because Coronation Street just doesn't really is not very good at sort of deciding this isn't going anywhere. I don't know, they do drop things, don't they?
It's a bit like that Chesney and Gemma felt inevitable for at least 2 years, didn't they?
It's because we're like, this is a bad idea, don't do it. And it's like watching the Titanic crash into an iceberg.
That was a bit. But this one, it doesn't feel like a bad idea. It just doesn't seem like an exciting idea.
Then it's a bad idea.
It's not like one's going to drag the other one down, because neither character mega exciting as it is already. I kind of like both of them.
I like both of them, but I think this time is precious on Coronation Street. Do you want to waste it watching Faye and Craig? No, I don't. I'd rather they had, I'd rather they didn't have romance stories at all, because I find them incredibly boring.
But I like the romance stories. I don't. I mean, what's boring to me is what we get with, like Adam and Sarah, who just get together and it's all sizzling and sexy and there's kind of nothing there other than raw sexual tension and foreness of it. That to me is boring. I like the idea of a romance. That's why people like Fizz and Tyrone are a really important couple to me on Coronation Street, because they feel normal. And maybe Craig and Faye would be good because they do feel normal. But then Ryan and Alia feel normal, and they're not they?
There's plenty of... I mean, you've got Toya and Imran, you've got Fizz and Tyrone, you've got Alia and Ryan. Let's just leave it. We don't need another... Let's just... Can we move on to a different story?
We will move on. We spent long enough talking about this story, but basically, Yay Abby is our summary of the past hour and a half's worth of chat, and boo Ray. So
I think somebody could have sort of summarised that for themselves.
So what we left over from this story is all the moving house bits with Gail and Yasmin and David and everything. So Wednesday, we had a couple of scenes where Gail's desperately trying to get a job cleaning at the factory. I mean, if you'd have asked me, like last week, if I just said Gail has got a job, what do you think Gail's job is? I probably would have said factory cleaner.
Yeah.
Because I don't know. It seems like
cleaning
all that she
up
can...
after Nick, which has been her life's work since the child was birthed.
Yeah, so she's going to go and clean at the factory now and probably find out something that goes on. She's going to earwig into.
She's going to hack in the computer.
Yeah. We also see her sticking it to David when he asks her to go and pick up the kids from school and take them round for tea. Which she says, I can't look after them because you live too far away from me now.
And then what happens?
And then he goes, oh, please, Mum. And she's like, oh, okay then.
And then he says...
And then she says, can you make me tea? And she's like, okay then. Yeah, Doormat Gale. But I don't think there's much more of that particular story now. I think everything else on my notes is Elaine and Yasmin related. So Elaine, who is another one where I'm thinking, is she going to leave? I don't really want her to leave, but she doesn't feel like she's staying for long. But I'm very happy with the idea that she's working at Speed Dial now. She goes in there on Wednesday, and this is when Yasmin started to go back to work again. And Yasmin, bless her, starts to have a bit of a panic attack when she gets an order on. Yeah, she has a panic attack when she gets an order wrong, and she realises that she's done something wrong in the kitchen, but rather than having a little mini breakdown there, she decides to come out into the main bit of Speed Dial, put her head in her hands and kind of wail like a banshee in front of all the customers, which were apparently there, but we didn't see any of them.
Well, is it Alia comes in and says, oh, they like this food, but it wasn't what they ordered?
Yeah.
And so I've comped them a pudding. And then Yasmin sort of like clutches her head and wails her way to the dining room. And you can just imagine this couple sitting there going, oh my God, we shouldn't have said anything.
I know.
What have we done? I don't think I want the pudding.
It just didn't really feel that it worked for me, that scene, because Elaine, Yasmin and Alia were clearly the only people on that set at the time.
I know, there wasn't even any background noise. People
No,
going,
there
oh,
wasn't.
rhubarb.
Anyway, after closing time, Yasmin's disappointed in herself for letting Jeff continue to get to her, because this is it. She wasn't just having a panic attack about the pudding. She still feels like Jeff always used to tell her that everything she did was wrong.
Because she was reacting to Jeff, and Jeff's
Yeah.
not there. And so she's like, he still controls me, even though he's dead.
And I really loved Elaine's suggestions at the end that she should try a daily act of defiance. She said, like, oh, why don't you wear something that Jeff would hate and go out to somewhere that he wouldn't approve of, or only put one earring in, or something like that. And I thought that was
that,
great.
but the phrase daily acts of defiance really feels like it was lifted directly from a sort of, so you've been abused, self-help book.
Yeah. I like the idea. I'd quite like to see it. I don't know whether we will, but...
I said before on here that I think that Jeff stifled Yasmin's creative flair with her like wardrobe and how she dresses, because she used to have a bit more of a kind of like an Asian
traditional.
She used to wear a scarf over one shoulder. She didn't wear traditional Indian clothing, but she had a sort of a flair with her outfits.
Yeah.
That kind of, I don't know, it was quite theatrical and really interesting, and I really loved it. And so I really wanted to start wearing clothes like that again.
Part of it, though, is that possibly Sharif made her dress like that. So I'd like her to maybe get a bit of a balance, because...
I know, but she's still, I mean, she's an Indian woman.
Yeah, it's
like, she's proud of her heritage.
Part of her culture and her heritage. Yeah.
So I think that she should...
I think so.
If she wants to wear those things, I think that she look beautiful.
I think it'd be cool. Friday, Elaine goes to speed dial again as a surprise to find Yasmin working there alone, because Alia's gone off somewhere, so she offers to help out. So we have a little training
Elaine's
scenes there.
really kind of useless, and I don't know. I'm a mean girl, obviously, because Yasmin was sort of watching her, and I can imagine Yasmin going, God, I think Jeff had a point with this one. Bloody useless.
Yeah, you would have thought that after all that time cooking for Jeff and cleaning up after him and everything, she might have acquired some kind of domestic skills.
It was the card machine that she was having trouble with. I don't know what experience she would have gained using that.
You're right. Chip and Pim wasn't even around when those two were married.
Yeah, so...
Yeah, fair enough. Then Evelyn comes in, and what a mix of brilliant Corrie characters that was. Evelyn, Elaine and Yasmin all together. All these, more mature women, fantastic. And then it all...
And also, just point out, what a great range of different personalities. It's not like Corrie still is good at not pigeonholing people according...
Yeah.
I think, actually, if you can level a criticism at Corrie, they pigeonhole younger characters. Like the sort of the 20s to early 30s characters are all like, oh, he's a stud and she's a hoe.
She's a vixen.
She's a hoe. You know what I mean? Whereas the older ones are a bit more interesting.
Yeah, it ends up just being about dogs, isn't it? The rest of the story.
First of all, Yasmin says, "Do you want a trial period?" And she says yes.
Yeah.
And she says, "Oh, what about Tinkerbell?"
Yeah, we find out that Yasmin has let Tinkerbell out. And Tinkerbell, it transpires, is a cute little Pomeranian dog that Elaine has just rescued from the local shelter. And, I'm definitely a cat person, but this Tinkerbell was pretty adorable.
I love small dogs.
What a cute little face that dog had.
Pomeranians. Oh, when
Tinkerbell just looked so thrilled to be on Coronation Street.
I'm on Coronation Street.
She's like, oh, look, there's Yasmin. Oh, there's the Rovers.
There's one point where she turns around, she's like, oh, look down Victoria Street.
She literally looks like when you go on the Coronation Street tour with some over-enthusiastic Canadian fans. She's like, oh my God.
Do you think Tinkerbell's Canadian?
Yeah.
Oh my God, my mum's going to just die when she sees me on TV. This is great. That's sounded LA, didn't it? Tinkerbell was literally dancing her way down. Like,
She's
we're
so
going
cute.
for a walk.
But I mean, I don't know how much we can trust Coronation Street with keeping pets, because
I
as
know.
we've seen from Tracy's cat Sylvester, they can just
dead.
disappear into the. I'd forgotten about Sylvester. Somebody brought him up on our Facebook group the other day, and he's like, "Oh yeah, there was a cat." And I felt ashamed of myself that I'd forgotten there was a cat that seems to have just been dropped. I think Tracy may have insinuated that
She got rid of
him because of
allergies. Or something.
yeah, but I'd completely forgotten. So, but I'd love for Tinkerbell to
I
stay.
think
She's
this is
adorable.
a really smart idea of Coronation Street to bring in pets, because let's remember that there's no physical touching at all between anybody. I think Elaine holding Tinkerbell to her face was the closest physical intimacy between two characters we've seen on Coronation Street for like 6
You're right,
months.
actually. You're very, very right. Sometimes
It
the
was
character
just
just,
nice to
needs
see.
someone to hug and they've not been able to.
it
So
was
give
nice.
them all a dog or a cat or something. So
It was-
think of it as Leanne. If Leanne had a little pet that she could stroke and
Do you know
cuddle
what?
and
Elaine
get
should hire
comforted by.
Tinkerbell out as a support dog.
Yeah.
So, of course, Evelyn is the sort of person who thinks it's funny and original to go, "Oh, you've got a small dog." I hate people like this.
Oh, the worst one was Alia, who's that was a bad when she comes down into speed dial and goes, "Oh, there's a rat under the table."
Can I just point out that people love to say this about small dogs, but nobody says this about cats, and they're pretty much the same size. You don't walk into someone's house and go, "Oh gosh, why have you got a rat in your house?" "Oh, sorry, no, that's my Siamese cat." You just sound stupid.
That was stupid because I mean, people sometimes will call small dogs rats
Because
just if
they're
they don't.
stupid and ignorant.
But I don't think they ever think they actually are a rat. I don't know how you could look at this big bundle of fluff and think it's a rat.
Well, first of all, you wouldn't go, "Gosh, there's a rat." You'd say, "Jesus Christ, phone an exorcist. That's the biggest rat I've ever seen. And it's barking at me. Can somebody help?"
What ends up happening? Yeah, Evelyn basically just has a bit of a standoff with Elaine and says, "Oh, you just use your dog as a fashion accessory. I've got a real dog.
I've got a real
Why
dog.
don't
It's
you
a
rescue
greyhound. A dog?" And then she walks off, and then Elaine thinks of a funny comeback, or a good comeback, and
Couple of scenes
she
later,
wouldn't actually be able to use it. And then she bumps into Evelyn again, and she's like, "Yes, I can tell you."
I did rescue this dog
actually.
Why
And she
didn't I think to
was
say that
abused
before?
in a bag.
Yeah, that was so sad to hear about Tinkerbell's
To be
past owner.
it was really funny
Reminded
to
me a
me,
bit
though.
of Abby, but, not the character Abby, Cat Abby. And
Oh, a cat Abby, she was abused.
She didn't have a very nice life before she came to live with us.
That's why she's got Stockholm syndrome. She thinks we're great, but she's got no idea. The thing that I liked the most about this was Elaine sort of telling this really poignant tale of dog abuse, of how this dog was treated just the way that Evelyn accused her of treating her, like being kept in a bag and, ignored and covered in perfume and stuff. And they had a close-up of Tinkerbell's face, and she was just like, "Oh, I liked it. Oh, Burberry."
Yeah, and that's kind of how it ends, isn't it? It's they basically the women back down, realising that maybe they have more in common than they first thought.
Well, it was basically like, don't judge someone by the dog
their
that
dog,
they own,
yeah.
which is like, only cretins would do that.
Yeah.
I hate people that judge people for small dogs. My family used to breed champion chihuahuas, but I've always had a mixture of small and big dogs, and I love them both. But practically speaking, small dogs are easy to look after. They are real dogs. Some of those dogs are bred for like really badass reasons, like cattle herding and stuff. And the other good thing about them is they've got a small carbon footprint. They're better for the environment.
Yeah.
And you can put them in your Burberry bag.
Do you think that did this feel like unnecessary filler? Are you expecting this relationship, friendship, frenemyship between those two to continue and blossom, or was it just balancing out the high drama of Ray and Debbie?
I just want a spin-off show, which only has to be one episode long, of just Evelyn, Cerberus, Tinkerbell and Elaine, and Yasmin and Emily,
Yeah.
the chicken.
Oh, not Emily.
Emily Bronte. Which one's left?
Not Emily Bishop.
Which one's left? Which was the chicken that's left?
Yeah, I think there's an Emily left. Not Charlotte Bronte's.
Charlotte Bronte's
dinner.
dead, yeah. Just sort of frolicking and having fun. And Yasmin just hugging her chicken, going, "You can hug a chicken."
Oh yeah, that was cute, wasn't it? When, she was talking about
when Elaine was saying, "Oh, you can't hug a chicken," I was like, "I've seen a boy on the internet hug a chicken. I know you can hug chickens."
I've never seen Yasmin hug a chicken. But what I have seen, which I think they'd forgotten about, is that a couple of years ago, Yasmin wanted David the dog off of David Platt.
The man.
And David the man. And
yeah, she's like, "I don't like dogs." It's like, yes, you do.
Yeah, you're desperate for that dog. Okay, this is all fun stuff.
I like seeing
I love
dogs.
those 3 characters. The dogs were cute.
I want a Pomeranian.
Yeah, Yasmin getting her mojo back was brilliant. Both telling Ray to jog on and the idea of the possibility of daily acts of defiance. I think it was really positive. I
like the way it's sort of baby steps, though. I think that's important.
Yeah, you're right.
But I have to say, Yasmin's like, yeah, baby steps. Oh, 1 step forward, half a step back, slow. Whereas Elaine's like, instantly, I'm cured. You know what I mean?
Elaine's had a bit more time to get over it.
Elaine like had a breakdown in the in the court.
Oh yeah.
Case, and she kind of looked like she had not recovered at all. But then as soon as she found out Jeff's dead, she was like, "Hooray!"
Yeah, no,
I
you're
can be
right.
the woman I've always wanted to be, and I can get a dog.
Just before we move on then, because the Platts were part of this story, any final thoughts about that? I suppose it's just Gail the doormat, isn't it? Which we've already covered.
I mean, she.
I kind of like the bit where she was talking to Nick about him and his dippy eggs.
They really take advantage of this woman.
She's a dippy egg, Gail.
She is a dippy egg. We should have added that to the Bobbins Awards, the Dippy Egg Award for being a doormat.
I think it's kind of funny that she's going back and forth between where do I live, which are these 2 houses that neither of which have sets. So wherever I choose to live, whether it's Natasha's flat or David's new house at the Dog and Gun estate, I'm never actually going to film a scene in there. So it's by the by, really.
When is Audrey going to die so I can buy a house?
I wonder... I mean,
what?
Are we assuming that David, by the end of the month, is going to be back on Coronation Street again? Because there is a potential of some kind of story going on at the Dog and Gun estate. For example...
They're not doing location shoots.
Yeah, exactly. They're not doing location shoots. But in my mind, I'm thinking, maybe if he's living there, he's going to come up against the people who he was goading last year when he went through that stage, the wind up a scally stage.
Almost certainly there would have been some kind of location. It would have felt weird if there wasn't, like some kind of conflict. And this is where it makes me laugh when people talk about how much of a champion Coronation Street is for the working classes, because everyone who lives on Coronation Street is like, estates, chavs.
I know. Anyway, let's move on. I'll let you take the lead on the Tully sales and marketing.
Is this still the final story?
Oh no, we got a little bit of Michael and Grace,
yes,
haven't we?
Of course.
Slightly.
Right. So, the MLMs are bad, in case you didn't know.
Yeah, was this an issue story?
This feels like an issue story that I was excited. I was kind of excited. I was like, yeah, actually, multi-level marketing companies are very predatory. They do. So basically, any kind of thing that you get involved in whereby you sell stuff and you're encouraged to recruit people to sell things as well, and you get a percentage of their sales, but you have to buy the products that you're selling. Anytime any of that goes on, just run away because it's very difficult to make money out of it. Very few of them sort of succeed, and you can tell by watching the show that it's all a facade of like fake positivity. It's like toxic positivity.
I loved Ridian today. I thought that Sean's boss was amazing, and it was a shame he was only there by video link. I wanted to come back. I loved that scene.
I just find it quite interesting that they had Sean and Ridian, because I think this is quite a sort of female dominated thing where they recruit lots of mums and they sort of, hashtag boss babe and all this kind of nonsense, and empower yourself by selling.
Well, Gemma fits into the story then, doesn't
Gemma
she?
And the evil mum who's good now.
Vanessa/Imogen.
Yeah. I mean, that fits into the whole thing, but I'll talk about it. Let's talk about it. So, Sean tells Nick that Violet's on her way up from... No.
Yeah.
Dylan.
Yeah, Violet is bringing Dylan.
Oh, up from up north to Manchester because he's been suspended from school.
Oh. You
can probably guess why. It seemed obvious to me immediately when Dylan refused to tell him why, because he's got bullied because he's got a gay dad.
Yes.
When was Sean at Dylan's school?
Never?
So what did Dylan do? Go around going, my dad's gay, and then wonder why he got bullied?
I don't know.
I can't understand.
Secret's out.
I mean, it shouldn't be a secret, but anyway, it just seems weird that Sean's nowhere near him at all or his school, and somehow everybody knows this. I guess that maybe there's a photo of Dylan and Sean with with Sean wearing his peacock top on Facebook or something. Anyway,
were you happy to see the peacock top again this week?
I was like,
it got a couple of outings this week.
Yes, I loved it. So, poor Dylan. I can't imagine what it must be like to be bullied because your dad's gay. This is stupid. For people to still be bullying people about this, but kids are mean. What can you say? He says, "Oh, I'm gonna go down to school. I'm gonna blah blah blah." Dylan's like, "That's not gonna help.
I'm gonna mince down that school."
No, you can't say that. So, on Wednesday, Sean's like, "Why don't you live with me? I'm gonna tell everybody." I don't know. He's like, "Why don't you tell the school that they're bullying you because your dad's gay?" And he's like, "Oh, I'm not a grass." And then, "Why don't you come and live with me? We can get our own place. I just need to ask Violet." And Dylan's like, "Oh, okay, that sounds good." I would run a mile if I was Dylan. I'd rather be bullied at school than live with Sean. Like, what are you going to do? Like, live in his wardrobe? Where is he going to put you?
I don't think there's any room in Sean's wardrobe. I imagine it's just packed with fluffy, frilly...
There's literally no room anywhere on the street. The street is like Bethlehem during the census. There is no room, but people still keep trying to cram in there.
Grace, give a little bit of room for you in here at number 3 this week.
I think that kids are really materialistic. At least I know I was, and so were mostly everybody else. And I think that if he's used to a certain level of lifestyle, he's not going to want to live with his dad in a crummy flat.
No, I don't think so as well. It is a real downgrade from his, fairly, well-off, affluent lifestyle in London, and also just it's a big move.
Yeah. I suppose if you're being bullied, like I remember being bullied at school, and it was
Would you have, if
miserable.
you had the opportunity to get away and move and up sticks and move somewhere else in the country, away from your family that
I wouldn't
want
to move from my family.
You do that?
No, not from my. But it's different because half of his family's there and half isn't.
But it does feel like Sean has been a fairly absent father for a lot of Dylan's life.
It does feel a bit like...
But maybe they just haven't shown it on... This is why Sean doesn't have any stories. All of his actual stories, all of his drama has taken place in London this
We got reminded several times this week of how hard Sean has had it when he had his homeless storyline.
Oh, yeah.
He literally mentioned it like 2 or 3 times. Like, you don't know how hard I've had it, babes. I had to struggle. Do you know how hard I had it? Until I told everyone I was homeless, and then it just magically went away like that. It was actually quite convenient. Anyway.
It's like he was trying to impress his son.
I was homeless.
You want to come and live with me? I've had a storyline. I've had one storyline over the last 5 years.
Tell you what, kid,
yeah.
you play your cards right, you could be in my story with me. I'm having an LMN one right now.
Yeah.
Do you even know what that is? Because I didn't. So, now we start with the recruitment, multi-level marketing stuff, and this was really kind of a bit confusing because it was a chain of people that owed each other money, which is not thrilling, to be fair. Sean says to Chesney, "You owe me money from the time you sold that stuff at the market," and he didn't really realise that there was any more money involved in this for some reason. He thought when you sell it, you get to keep all the money. So Kirk talks to Chesney about the money at Christmas, and we realise that all the stuff that he said he sold was actually... We wondered where the money came from. Kurt lent it to him, and that's it.
Yeah, that was a bit of a...
anticlimactic.
They didn't build it up to be a mystery.
No, they didn't. But you...
To find out, it was just Kurt that gave it to
Yeah.
him. Like, okay, they could have said that at the time. Maybe they did say it at the time,
Dunno.
we just missed it.
Beth's wondering where his money's gone. Can I have it back, please? Because...
Need to pay the lucky bill.
Yeah, and Chesney's like, sorry, I don't really have it. And then Beth starts to ask Gemma for the money, and she didn't realise that Chesney hadn't paid this off. Okay. And then Sean tells Dylan about that time he had a story, and he's like, are you sure that you can afford us to get a house together, Dad, seeing as what, like, you living in a tent 2 years ago? And Sean kind of turns into #bossbabe because he decides that by doing this, working really hard at selling mascara to people, he can work his way up to owning a property somehow.
8 months is all it takes.
He says
apparently.
he spoke to a mortgage broker and they reckon that he could scrape together a deposit in 8 months. So, oh dear. Chesney says to Gemma, this is what actually happened at Christmas. We didn't really sell it. We owe Sean commission money. Oh, what are we going to do? So Gemma goes to Sean and says, please, can you give me another 6 weeks to pay you the money for this commission? He says no, because I've got to give Rylan? Ridian the money, because that's how it works. You pay money up. And also, I've got to find somewhere for me and Dylan to live. Michael's listening. He's like, oh, glad I would go out of that. And says, you need to recruit more people if you want to make more money. And he also, Michael tries to say to Sean, I think that, you're pushing her a bit hard here. I don't think she's got any cash. And Gemma and Chesney, just the theme of their lives is being sad about bad choices that they've made. Neither of them want to recruit other people because the one thing about them is that their morals are far more important to them than anything else. But it's only very specific things that they feel morally object to, all of which involve them getting money for something. So they don't want to recruit other people because they don't want them to be in the same situation.
But then Vanessa comes along, doesn't she?
Well,
little blast from the past.
Yes.
Who very handily
like,
has got oodles of cash to spend because she's
doesn't.
just had the settlement from a divorce through, and like, oh, what's she spend it
She
on?
doesn't know. She doesn't. She says she's got her child maintenance.
Oh yeah, there's that as well.
Yeah. So Vanessa's like, oh, I want to make a bit of cash in my spare time. I'm a mum. I'm #bossbabe. I heard that through the power of sheer will and positivity and posting on Facebook 20 times a day, I too could soon become a millionaire. And Sean and Gemma are like, that's right.
Well, it's mostly Sean. Gemma's kind of ends the episode
Sean's
looking a bit guilty,
saying,
but thinking, well, maybe I should.
kind of have to. Sean's saying, you have to do this because you owe me money. And
yeah, Sean's a bit more aggressive in recruiting Vanessa.
But this is how the scheme works, because Vanessa pays Gemma, and then Gemma pays Sean, and then Sean pays Ridian. But each time you get a bit more money.
Yeah.
So he says to Gemma on Friday, you better recruit Gemma. And then Kirk says, Chesney can have that money. And then Chesney says, Gemma, we owe Kirk money. And then
you're right, this story was just people asking each other for money, wasn't it?
This kind of reminds me like when you go out with your friends for a meal at Christmas or something, and somebody pays for everyone, and then for the rest of the time it's like, can you PayPal me that money, please? How much was it? I don't remember. You had 3 margaritas and I only had 1. So anyway, Gemma's Vanessa's like, yeah, I wanna join the scheme. They go to the speed dial together, and Gemma's like, I'll have a water, please. And Vanessa's like, but you are loaded with this scheme that you have. And Gemma's like, I'm just trying to be healthy. And Vanessa's saying, I can't wait to join this money-making scheme. Honestly, it's too good to be true. I can't believe that you double your money in just a month. I'm going to use all of my child maintenance money that I should be spending on my child to invest so that I can decorate the nursery. And Gemma says, can you shut up for a minute? This is a bad idea. Have you not Googled this for yourself? I feel bad for how stupid you are. And don't fall for this. This is all a trick. And Vanessa gets kind of shirty with her, and she's like, well, fine. And she leaves her with this coffee that Gemma didn't want, and Elaine makes her pay for.
That was the most emptiest cup I've seen on Coronation Street for a long time. I know it was Elaine serving it, and she's new and everything, but that we saw really at least halfway into that mug, and we didn't see anything
there
sloshing
needs
about.
to be a fill line on there, doesn't there,
yeah.
for Elaine? So Gemma goes back to Sean and says, Sean, I quit. Sean says, no, I need the money. I'm skint. I need to give it to Ridian. Then Sean gets on this like voice chat with Ridian, who's video chat with this guy. He's Welsh, isn't he?
He was Welsh, yes.
Loved his accent, and he's like, listen, and he's like, sorry, Ridian, I don't have any money. And he's like, listen, I don't want to hear negativity from you. I want to hear positivity. I want you to go out there, get the money, recruit people, sell. You're never going to get anywhere with that attitude.
You just need the right mindset, Sean, and you tell your Gemma
like,
to get out there and sell more of those things.
And tell her if she doesn't, we'll sue her. Okay?
And if you don't give me your money by the end of the week, then we'll sue you, Sean.
We'll sue you too. I don't think that's how it works. I don't think that any business, this crackpotter...
I just love how cheerily he told him that this threat of suing him.
We'll sue you, but don't worry, because that's not going to happen, is it, Sean? Because you're going to give me the money, aren't you? So don't worry.
Because if you don't, then I won't be able to pay my boss.
Yeah, whatever. So Sean's like, oh dear. He goes back to Gemma and says... well, I need the money.
Back to square one.
Yeah, this is just so many things with Gemma and Chesney are just, the whole week is just going around in a circle of stupidity. There was even a bit, I can't remember, who was it? Was it Sean or Ridian who did the literally making a triangle with their hands?
It's when he was pointing like up to his boss.
It's like, I'm the thumb, you're the finger. We all join together and make a triangle, but it's not a pyramid scheme because it's a 2D
polygon. Yeah.
So she says, I don't want to give you any money, and he says, well, I'll sue you. And so she goes and tells Chesney, and they're like, oh no. And Chesney's like the captain of pointing out the obvious and saying, why didn't you do this and the other thing? I don't know, Chesney, why didn't you wear a condom? All of this problems would have been solved. So Chesney brings Kirk and Sean the money, but then tells Sean that he's a horrible man and it's all his fault, and he has to give Sean his rent money, and he's making all these children homeless, just like he was homeless, remember?
Yes, I do remember that.
And if I was Sean, I would how aggressive Chesney was, and how much Chesney thought he was morally correct in blaming Sean for these problems. I think it would just flip me the other way. I'd be like, I don't feel sorry for you. Gemma said she didn't even read the contract. None of this should be surprising.
Yeah, I mean...
because this is the thing that's annoying me about the storyline. I was excited about this because I hate these schemes. I think they're horrible. They prey on people. They lie. They kind of recruit you into this weird fake world where... you become a victim, and they do select people who are going to be more vulnerable to this. They pick on women who have limited means, who have to work around childcare. I mean, Vanessa says something to her, Gemma, like, I have to go back, I'm not paying for childcare for this because I'm not getting anything out of it. They prey on people that are already vulnerable. But the group of characters they selected to tell this story, I just hope the lot of them get bankrupt and end up living in Sean's tent. They all are stupid and dumb. They deserve everything that's happening to them.
They're not enjoying this story?
Not really, no.
I may shock you, but I've actually not minded this story in the slightest week. And I've seen lots of criticism for this story, and I've been... very happy with it. And yes, there's been lots of going around in circles, owing money and everything, but I honestly have felt kind of sorry for the people that are involved in it. And they're stupid. Gemma's stupid for not reading the contract and everything, but I think it's kind of in her character. She's just a bit dense. If it was somebody like, you know, Daniel, who'd got himself into a pyramid scheme, and you think, oh yeah, why didn't you read this? But I can imagine her being roped
it's really
into
mean
it.
and elitist of nature.
And
not to expect Gemma to...
And Gemma hasn't been, you know, being gobby or gross or, you know, all those qualities that they were pushing, you know, shoving down our throats just a couple of years ago. I felt kind of bad for her.
I'm just stuck on this thing of really, really disliking Gemma and Chesney's continued inability to ever give them, you know, take take a break from blaming everybody else for their problems when they get offered all these solutions all the time and they never use any of them. And I also can't believe, honestly, that Gemma has spent any time on the internet, especially doing what she's doing, like with video blogging and talking about being a mum and sharing tips and tricks with other mums. I can't believe that she never came across stories about multi-level marketing before. But,
Yeah.
you know, obviously, the thing is, you know, people get caught up into it. And the other thing about this...
If it was that obvious, then people wouldn't get
Yeah.
roped in. And if anyone's going to get roped in, it's going to be someone like Gemma.
And also, this is a time in the world where people are desperate and they're losing their jobs.
Yeah.
But something to bear in mind is selling luxury, pointless goods like makeup and jewellery
Not
during
something
a
that everyone-
pandemic is a kind of a harebrained idea.
Yeah.
You should be trying to sell things that people need.
See, I also...
Mind you, actually, going back on that, when the economy does badly, apparently sales of lipstick go up and nail varnish because women can't afford to buy a new outfit, but they can afford to buy a
Tell you
little...
what, wasn't Sarah Louise's lipstick nice this week? We both noticed that, didn't we?
Yeah.
When she was in that scene
Very
with Adam. We were like,
pretty.
does Sarah Louise usually wear lipstick like
is
that?
that double glammy? You look fab, darling.
The other thing about this story was I enjoyed that it was a Sean story. I like Sean. He's not my character of the week this week, but I'm sure that on Charlie Condu's Coronation Street podcast, he's number one every single week.
Every
so
week.
I don't feel guilty for not picking him
There's
this
always a
week.
place
But
in.
I do like Sean, and he doesn't have stories very much, and it almost was the fact that this character has been given a story. It's like, oh, okay, we haven't seen Sean for a while. Let's see what happened. To be honest, I think if they came around and were going to give Izzy a little story for now, I'd be like, okay, we only saw her for 6 episodes last year. I'll watch an Izzy story. And she's a character that I don't really like, but I've never made a secret of the fact that I kind of like Sean. I did feel sorry for him. I'm actually quite fascinated by the dynamic between Sean and Dylan. And I think that could boost his character. I'm not expecting him to, come to the fore and be one of the A-listers. He's always just there in the background. But no, I enjoyed Sean this week. I didn't think this story was that bad, and also the fact that the Ray story was so intense. It was about rape. It was about people losing their houses. It was about somebody getting drugged. It was about somebody possibly getting murdered. To have a kind of everyday normal story, it was like fine to me.
Yep. I guess my ire is misplaced somewhat because I should be mad at the people that make these schemes up, not the people that fall victim to them. And also, of everybody, Gemma and Chesney were the only ones who had any kind of moral backbone to stand up and say, actually, this is wrong, we shouldn't be doing this.
Well, yeah, I felt bad for Sean that he had to be...
And at least they're consistent, honestly. At least Gemma and Chesney are consistent with their self-defeating moral superiority that they seem to indulge in. And it literally is an indulgence because they can't afford to keep doing this.
I wondered whether it was going to kind of end with Gemma passing it on to Vanessa, a bit like, the Ring video, because and I thought it was like, oh, does Vanessa deserve to be treated this way? Because she was...
Vanessa seems to be smart enough to have worked this out for herself.
Vanessa was a cow to Gemma last year, mostly egged on by Imogen, so I thought this was just going to be finally this person gets her just desserts, but I think we're supposed to feel bad for Vanessa now that she's been, dumped by her best mate Imogen. And
to me, Vanessa seems to be the sort of woman who goes, oh yeah, well, since my husband left me, I just started a consulting firm for like PR, and I just do it for my friends and stuff. So you only earn a bit of money, but it's enough to pay my mortgage. It's, 4 or 5 grand a month. It's not loads. You know what I mean? She's the sort of person who just falls on her feet. I'm surprised that she lowered herself to being a subordinate to Gemma.
I'm not expecting to see her back again.
No.
It felt like an odd cameo.
Weird
it was weird.
Yeah.
What was a nice cameo? There was Eileen. It was nice to see a little scene with her
A
and
cameo
Sean
of Eileen.
in the Rovers.
One
Let's
of the
have more
main
Eileen in
characters.
2021, please. And Dylan obviously back again. I was surprised when he went already on Wednesday, for some reason, I got it into my head that when Sean said, "Oh, let's get somewhere for us to live," I thought that, you know, by the end of the week he'd have found somewhere to rent and him and Dylan would have moved into it.
I think what gave you that impression. Could it be that Coronation Street does that all the time?
Yeah, exactly. But Dylan has gone back again. Maybe we won't see. Well, I mean, half term's only a couple of weeks away, so maybe we'll see him then, or at Easter or something. But it feels like that now that he's been in the show twice, it feels like they're just gently easing him in to become a regular character. And again, that's good for Sean to give him a son. Will he get somewhere to live? Because I can't imagine that if Dylan's going to come back, that they're going to live at Eileen's place. So maybe Sean getting his own flat could be quite cool. Not that they always show where a character lives, because Brian and Kathy, we've never seen inside their flat since they've been living there.
The thing is, they need a set to continuously hang out in. Brian and Kathy always can hang out in the cabin.
Yeah.
So Dylan would have to like get a job working part-time at the factory for them to have scenes together if they didn't have a house.
Yeah, and he's young there, isn't he? But I don't know what other properties are available. I mean, it's all a bit up in the air at the moment, isn't it? Because we've got Alina living at number 13, Emma's at the Rovers, so potentially that flat's open, but
don't even try to make sense of
who knows
the biggest population density in the entire continent of Europe.
Yeah, that storyline really did not bug me in the slightest this week. I actually quite enjoyed it.
Take that, Gemma.
And then finally, we also had the Babes and Grace story, which was basically Grace saying, "I'm going to go to Hull to live with my aunt,"
and Michael just going, I'm not your aunt. Hull.
And Michael saying,
"How rude."
No, come back and live with me at number 3.
And also, can I have a scene with my brother James? Do you remember him?
Oh yeah, the James was in it today, wasn't he? Yeah. The last time they had Hull in Coronation Street, Jenny was dangling a baby off the balcony, so no wonder Michael doesn't want Grace to give birth over there. So anyway, he says, "Come and live with me at number 3."
Michael says to James, "I've got an idea," and James goes, "Football."
Great, they go back to number 3. Aggie, unsurprisingly, is not best pleased to find Grace
Aggie
there.
had no time for Grace at all. She comes in.
Just been back from a 12-hour shift.
She didn't even give her a chance. She's like, "Oh, Michael." She comes in.
It wasn't
she
a
goes,
slow clap.
"What the hell are you doing here? Get out."
Yeah, doesn't even wash her hands.
She doesn't wash her hands at all. Absolutely disgraceful. No wonder it's spreading like the plague. I will say one thing about this. I was surprised to hear Michael tell Aggie off and use the word aggressive. He said, why do you have to be so aggressive? I don't think they should have used that word, because that's a word that's historically used to humiliate and diminish black women's feelings, and to tell them that they're sort of displaying emotions inappropriate. This is something that I didn't realise until a few years ago when I heard people talking about it. But it's used very often against black women, and you don't very often hear a white woman being accused of being aggressive, but it's something that people throw at black women. I don't know.
I've not heard this.
No, I mean,
I believe you.
There's not necessarily a reason that you would have heard of it. I think it might be something that happens more in America than it does here. Mm. There are certain trigger words that you probably wouldn't realise because you're a white guy and you haven't sort of engaged in kind of... But I just thought that was a bit of a weird word to have in the script. And I think it was a bit... I think it was an inappropriate word to use.
Okay.
But it was something that dinged a bell in my head.
Yeah.
And I think if you're a black woman, especially if you have spent any time on social media, you will have heard these words used against you, and it would have also probably... I don't want to speak for people, but I can imagine that it probably would be a trigger word that they wouldn't really want to hear on Coronation Street being used so casually against a black woman for expressing her feelings about somebody being in a house who literally spent a whole year lying to her. She's got every right. She
does. I think we're supposed to feel sorry for
Grace
Michael.
Grace is so naive. She's like, "Hi Aggie, we've got a takeaway. But also, Michael's so dumb. He's like, oh yeah, I didn't tell her that you were going to be here. I thought the takeaway would distract her.
Grace ends up leaving, doesn't she? 'Cause she
just goes.
senses the vibes, and then we're left with this argument between Aggie and James, where Michael, sorry, James. Imagine him in
James
an
gone
argument.
upstairs to play football.
She accuses him of being so ruddy selfish. Michael should just move out. He's a grown man. He's what,
got a
28,
job.
29? Yeah, he's got a job. He doesn't. I think he should just say, "Sorry, Mum, I'm."
I don't think he
cutting the
needs-
apron strings and flying the nest at last.
I know that they had money problems, but I think that it's safe to say that with a professional footballer in the house, a nurse who really is in no danger of being laid off anytime soon, they've got at least 2 incomes coming in, and we know how much they charge for tickets down at what's it called?
Yeah, with the counter, yeah.
He must be raking it in. I don't know how much work. I think you can still do construction.
Yeah,
So they're all in work.
Yeah. I mean,
Michael should be like, get your cap out and start collecting a bit of funds from the fam, saying, do you want me to move out or not? All donations gratefully received. The more zeros, the better. On the end.
Yeah, I think we're supposed to trust Grace now. I don't think there's any.
I
don't think that she's. I know she was dressed up as Minnie the Minx tonight in her black and red striped top, but I don't think that she's got.
It wasn't symbolic of any kind of.
No, it
bad
didn't
behaviour.
feel like she's got any ulterior motive here. So yeah, I thought that
I
was
like
fine.
that.
It was fine.
I just really liked. I will say I have said in our bonus podcast this week about Mardy Mares and Leanne. I'm really I'm proud of her for speaking her mind and not sort of being a nice, quiet woman. And I like Aggie for that as well. She's like, nope, I'm not even going to be nice about it. Get out of my house, you duplicitous cow.
Right, so I mean,
there's nothing more thrilling than being morally outraged and knowing that you're completely in the right and having a go at somebody who's wronged you. Aggie must feel great. Imagine how great you'd feel if you did a 12-hour shift, come home, lovely takeaway on the table, and your worst enemy, and you go, get out of my house, and they just go, and you're like, yes, this is the best day ever.
Get myself a plate. So I think we both. We don't need to discuss character of the week.
I was going to say this earlier.
Really,
it's obviously
clearly Abby. So let's move on. What are we scoring it this week? And it was a great week. Like I said at the beginning, the fact that all of these stories kind of intermingled with each other, it played havoc with my notes, but it made it feel so delightfully interconnected. In some ways, Coronation Street can just be like little separate stories going on independently of each other, and it all felt it linked up nicely this week. I wasn't as excited by the Faye side of things, but literally the moment that Abby stepped up to the plate and was like, this story's about me now, I'm the main character in this story for the next 3 episodes or so, loved it. I didn't mind the telemarketing stuff. I wasn't excited by it, but I also wasn't bored by it. So yeah, I thought it was a decent week. It really was. I am going to give it. It's a shame because the excitement of Debbie and Ray felt like it was just not quite ramped up as much as it should be. I mean,
I can't remember what I gave it last week.
you gave it a 4 last week, and I gave it a 3, and that was certainly on the low side compared to everyone else in the Facebook group. I'm going to say this is a 4. I'm going to say this is a 4. It wasn't quite 4.5 material, I don't think.
Well, if I gave it a 4 last week, I have to give it a 4.5 this week because it was more exciting. I'll give it 4 cream horn research papers because we got to find out what's making all the mess.
Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna give it. No, you know what? Stuff it. I'm gonna give it a 4.5 as well. I'm gonna give it.
You only live once.
4.5. Pink faux fur cardies with a sink lining.
Silk lining.
Not the sink lining. The silk lining.
Everything but the kitchen sink.
Out of 5. Could be
Do you
Coronation
think Emma's
Street.
ever going to get that back off, Dave?
I don't know. I'm quite excited about next week, but sometimes when I get excited about an upcoming week, I just get disappointed by it. So I won't let myself get too thrilled by it, because it does feel like it's almost slightly obvious what's going to happen with Ray, with Debbie getting accused of doing Ray in and the evidence being found, but actually not. But if next week is Ray's comeuppance, and I honestly don't know whether it is or whether that's, you know, down the line 3 or 4 weeks time, that could be cool. So yeah, I'm leaving this week satisfied and thirsty for more.
I'm going to float a theory here that I've just thought of with Emma.
Go on then.
And learning Spanish. And the mention of what's Steve's brother called? Andy. I predict that Andy is going to come back in the show. Emma will be fluent in Spanish by this point, and Andy and Emma spend many scenes insulting Daisy in Spanish, and she doesn't realise they're talking about her. And that's the only reason I can think of why they made Emma learn Spanish.
Okay, well, let's find out.
We'll find out in a year's time.
Exactly. Get Nick Cochran on the blower. Get him back in.
Get him downloading Duolingo. Let's get this going.
Yeah.